sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your Archbishop of Banterbury, your Chancellor of Cheerfulness, your existential Mr. Rogers, Robert Meyer Burnett. And I'm, of course, start out and just say that I think I'm having entirely too much fun on YouTube as of late. And I blame you. I blame all of you for watching this channel. I want to thank you so much for, well, I don't know, just for providing me or a platform and participating in this platform. I hope that we're bringing mirth and mayhem, but most of all, fun and cheerfulness to your lives, because I know you bring it to mine. So it's great. I can't believe, these shows that I do with Az where we talk about our toys. It's like, wow, I really do have a reason to bring out all of this stuff. I mean, I wish I had the organization of, say, Az, but Justin in his, when he has, Az has good organization too, but Justin, when he's got his figures all set up, his figures. Anyway, it's just great to be able to do this, and I want to thank all of y'all for making it possible. Now, oh boy, you knew it was coming. Obviously, the competence of the American, well, you would have thought that we would have had a great opportunity to be ready, to mobilize our forces. We did, after all, storm the beaches of Normandy. American wherewithal is renowned in some circles, but I don't know where it is these days, because apparently we can't even roll out a vaccine that is desperately needed. And because of that, hey, there was supposed to be a plan in place, but there isn't one. Not really. So what does that mean? I'm not going to get political about this particular, because I don't have to, y'all know. But what it's going to be a problem for is movie theaters. Obviously, many movies, such as, the upcoming James Bond film, No Time to Die, which was supposed to come out last April, has now been moved to this coming April, which is a little less than 4 months away. But the way the vaccine's rolling out, well, 65% of American theaters are still closed. So it looks like we are running into a slew of movies that are going to be delayed again. And what is one of the first to fall or move to the fall, as reported in Deadline literally 15 minutes ago, Morbius. I don't know if you'd call it the sequel to Venom, but the second of Sony's Spider-Verse movies has been officially moved off of its date. From March 19th, when it was originally, that was its new date, it has now been pushed to October 8th. Oh boy. Does this mean Venom will be moving as well? I don't know. Let's read. Sony's Morbius, starring Jared Leto, will no longer debut March 19th, rather October 8th. With COVID cases raging as we await a calmer administration to set foot in Washington and deal with the nation's health crisis, many are expecting this year's Q1 theatrical releases to move. Morbius moves to a release date currently occupied by the United Artists releasing Addams Family animated sequel. This is a major Marvel movie for Sony, and they're protecting it rather than sending it to PVOD, which on one hand is pretty good because it means that the movie's probably pretty good, which is why they want to give it a theatrical release. There are no other wide releases left on March 19th, only IFC's The Last Call and ICOC's My Brother's Keeper, according to the most recent ComScore calendar. So, Morbius, gone. As I look through here, John Chu is no longer directing the Willow pilot for Disney, which is too bad. I'm looking to see, before I continue on with this article, it doesn't look like any other movies are moving, although the FBI is now warning of an armed group planning more DC protests. Great. But yeah, so anyway. And in today's Variety, an article I wanted to discuss, so let's just discuss it, shall we? Hollywood blockbusters. Hollywood prepares to delay another slew of blockbusters. Rebecca Rubin wrote this. It was in Variety at 10:48 this morning. Here we go again. Late last year, Warner Brothers was skewered after announcing all of its new movies in 2021 would debut simultaneously on HBO Max and in theaters. Cinema operators, rival studios, and even some of the filmmakers behind the movies wondered aloud why, with the prospect of a coronavirus vaccine looming, Warner Brothers would make such a sweeping decision. It was a move that appeared to wave the white flag on moviegoing for the next 12 months. Nobody expected mass immunization overnight, but with the vaccines being administered at a crawl in the U.S., we were supposed to have 20 million people immunized by the end of December, but that didn't happen. I think they got 4. But with vaccinations being administered at a crawl in the U.S., it now looks like Warner Brothers may have been forward-thinking in acknowledging the box office's slow return. Numerous films remain on the release calendar for early 2021, yet cases of the virus in many areas are higher than ever. And approximately 65% of the U.S. theaters, including those in popular markets like New York and Los Angeles, remain closed. Getting back to the movies in any normal fashion seems as unrealistic today as it did last March when cinemas across the nation were shuttered. To be sure, the majority of potential blockbusters have already been postponed to midsummer or later, but there are still a handful of films scheduled for the first quarter of the year. Sony's Cinderella, starring Camille Cabello, Disney and 20th Century Fox's The King's Man, coming out March 12th, and Jared Leto's superhero thriller Morbius, also from Sony. But since this article was published, as I just read to you, Morbius has been moved. This seems very unlikely to keep they seem very unlikely to keep their theatrical release dates, at least without embracing some kind of hybrid digital or video-on-demand debut. Even in traditional times, the stretch between January and March is kind of a cinematic dumping ground. So it's not entirely unexpected that the current release calendar doesn't pick up in a meaningful way until May, with the debut of Disney and Marvel's Black Widow on May 7th, Warner Brothers and Legendary's Godzilla vs. Kong on May 21st, Ryan Reynolds' Free Guy from 20th Century Studios on May 21st, Paramount's Infinite starring Mark Wahlberg on May 28th, Disney's Cruella with Emma Stone on May 28th, and Universal's Fast 9, or F9, on May 28th. But many of these titles are expected to shift as well if conditions don't drastically improve over the next month or so. Hollywood players will continue to take different approaches to operating and finding the best way to reach audiences during the pandemic. Disney, Warner Brothers, and Universal appear more primed to ride out the next few months with contingency plans that range from day-and-date releases on streaming services to accelerated premium video-on-demand windows. Neither Sony nor Paramount have a streaming service ready to offload titles, so those companies will probably continue to delay release dates or sell their movies to platforms like Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime. Paramount made a profit last year doing that. Paramount has auctioned off most of its upcoming movies and doesn't have anything on the horizon until A Quiet Place Part 2 on April 23rd, which it has no plans to sell. As it stands, Cinderella is slated as the first release of 2021 from a major studio. However, it's hard to believe the Kay Cannon-directed fairy tale adaptation will keep its early February release date. Sony declined to comment on scheduling. But it doesn't take a detective to notice that there's been a conspicuous absence of marketing, no hint of first-look images, no scintilla of teaser trailer, no evidence of Camila Cabello's inspired promotional toys for a movie that's supposed to come out next month. Most films start rolling out advertising efforts 6 weeks ahead of release, oftentimes earlier if it's a sequel or a spin-off of a popular franchise. Yet sources at Sony emphasize the classic princess will get her due on the big screen. While Sony sent Seth Rogen's An American Pickle to HBO Max and the Kristen Stewart rom-com The Happiest Season to Hulu last year, insiders say Cinderella won't be sold to a streamer and Sony is committed to a theatrical release. Disney has stayed similarly mum on The King's Man, an often delayed prequel in the Kingsman series, which is set for early March. There's slightly more time before the studio would traditionally start showcasing trailers and other promotional materials, but if ads don't begin materializing within the next few weeks, it may be fair to assume that director Matthew Vaughn's latest installment in the spy comedy franchise is being held up again. There have been rumors that a major streaming service would like to take the film off Disney's hands, but it's unclear if the studio would ever sell the movie. Moreover, if it went that route, it could always debut The King's Man on Hulu, which it owns. There's been chatter that another Disney tentpole, the Scarlett Johansson-led Marvel adventure Black Widow, may follow in the steps of fellow studio release Raya and the Last Dragon. which is premiering concurrently in theaters and on Disney Plus for a premium price. Disney insiders continue to deny those whispers, yet in the age of coronavirus, nothing is being considered until it is. Sources at Disney dispute reports that Pixar's Soul would premiere on Disney Plus, only to announce a month later that Soul would open on Disney Plus. It's true for any movie. Plans will be fluid as long as the pandemic remains rampant. What doesn't change, however, is the fact that it's insurmountably more challenging for a film of the size and scale of Black Widow to become profitable without a traditional theatrical window. Many rival studios were gobsmacked at Warner Brothers' decision to send Wonder Woman 84, The Suicide Squad, Dune, and other mega-budgeted films to HBO Max. In the case of Wonder Woman 84, skipping a big debut in cinemas likely meant the film will lose over $100 million at the box office. It may boast subscriptions for HBO Max, but it's ambiguous if additional revenue will paper over the loss of ticket sales. Other Warner's titles slated for a hybrid release may find themselves similarly in the red. This goes on and on and on and talks about how things are going to be different. It talks about what's going to happen in No Time to Die. That means the Fast and the Furious sequel F9 and the James Bond entry No Time to Die will likely vacate those release dates unless a whole lot more people get vaccinated. MGM, the financial backers of the 007 franchise, and Universal, the studio behind the high-octane series, both declined to comment. Universal also has international rights on No Time to Die. Universal has deployed its early premium video-on-demand pack with exhibitors such as AMC and Cinemark to modest success, with Trolls World Tour and The King of Staten Island among the titles that made money for the studio, but few anticipate that Universal will test its PVOD deal, which allows the studios to put new titles on digital rental services 17 days after their theatrical debuts in impaired marketplaces with an all-important tentpole like F9. And delay. If this goes on, you can read the rest of it. But well, I'll finish it. What the heck? For many studios, delay, and again may be the best option, hopefully for the last time. But if the pandemic has proven anything, Hollywood may find itself repeating this song and dance in another 6 months. So yeah, it is unfortunate that there is an actual vaccine out there that's rolling out, but our country has been so slow to come up with a plan to do so that this rollout is taking longer than expected. I'm just as a curiosity, I would love to see where we are at. Today is the 11th of January, right? So let's see, 2021, where are we at in terms of COVID cases? So right now, January 10th, we have, there are, well, let's see what we're at here. Overview. Let's see. Now let's go back. New cases. Well, as of yesterday, 42,440 new cases on January 10th. Wow. That's crazy. But anyway, I don't see that happening anytime soon. In Los Angeles County, we now have 921,000 total cases with 12,250 deaths, up 166 in a day. Yeah, I don't see that happening. California, up 301 deaths. We're at 30,057 totally in California. And worldwide, it's 1.94 million, and there's 90.4 million cases, 50.1 million people recovered. So there we go. I don't see this stopping anytime soon, which, look, I know that me talking about I want to see a movie, and while there are people dying and there's a raging pandemic, is probably insensitive and a little bit callous. But this is an entertainment news channel or an entertainment op-ed. You know what? This is it's an imagination connoisseur op-ed channel. Let's be real. That's what it is. That's what I'm here to do. And I, as much as politics has been bleeding in, we can't help that because politics is part of being an imagination connoisseur. What is Star Wars is literally about a rebellion against an empire. It is political. The entire premise of Star Wars is, in fact, political. But I know what you mean. What you don't want to see, even though we're going to talk about it because people write in about it, I'm not going to not talk about it. But it is unfortunate. I would have thought that the vaccine rollout would have been far more. You'd think of a superpower with the greatest military might the world has ever seen would be able to use some of that military might to roll out this vaccine countrywide. Thank God we're not being attacked by anyone, because where would we be at? And I do not mean to just besmirch our men and women in uniform. All I mean to say is that right now we need this coronavirus rolled out for our own economy. I would think it would be priority, and the current administration said we were going to have 20 million people inoculated by the end of the year, and that didn't happen. The question is, well, why didn't it happen? I don't know. So, interesting. We shall see where we're going with that. Now, I have to, there's something I wanted to address. And so yesterday I read a letter from Concerned Viewer. And Concerned Viewer was upset with me for fraternizing with certain channels, and such as Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers or Gary from Nerdrotic. And I think that I gave that letter a measured response, as I would. Look, as I explained, I really appreciated getting Concerned Viewer's letter, because it's that kind of thing that we should open up and discuss and put it to the test. And if I wouldn't accept criticism or people calling me to the mat about certain things, I would be hypocritical. So I, again, have no problem when people write in. I just want to point out that I also went on a stream with those people last night that was put together by Star Wars Theory. I was on that stream. I started late because my stream was running late here. But that stream in 2 hours generated over $36,000 in super chats and donations, tips and super chats and all that. Star Wars Theory, who has over 2 million subscribers, all the people that came to that channel for 2 hours donated $36,000 to St. Jude's Hospital, the children's cancer hospital that you see. It truly is one of the great charities, and they do put their money where their mouth is. $36,000 was raised. All of us went on that channel, free of charge. Nobody was making any money. And those very same people that a lot of other people complain about, or people that they don't like that I fraternize with, look, $36,000 for St. Jude's based on their viewers, that's not such a bad thing. And I think it stands as a shining example of what can be done when people that might be of differing political ideologies get together for a certain cause. Now, we were all there. We were not arguing really politics or anything like that. We were talking Star Wars and celebrating what we loved. And everybody came and donated of their time. And that's what I know and believe these communities can be. That's why it's frustrating, a lot of the time when I hear people say, well, by appearing on someone else's channel, you're giving them approval. And I'm like, as I said, I'm not my brother's keeper. But I take no responsibility for the beliefs of anybody else. All I know is that I will talk to anybody that is polite and seems interested in cogent, thoughtful discourse. I think that's important because, I learned something. Hopefully they learned something from me. And last night, $36,000 worth of money was raised. And by the way, there's no middleman there. When you donate, it goes straight to St. Jude. No one's carving off a piece of themselves, not even Google. They let it go straight to the charity. And I want to thank everybody that participated. And I especially want to thank Star Wars Theory, who I did not know, who I met the other night and put the whole thing together. And I want to say that to me is this YouTube community at its very best. And I was happy to participate. Now, I would like to read a response that a response to this, and it's from Concerned Viewer again. And I want everybody to take note of this, because Concerned Viewer wrote me, and I read the article yesterday, and really took me to task and asked me important questions that I felt it worth answering on the show. Their response is also worth sharing. And they even mentioned about they wish they should have asked or kept the first letter private. And this one, I don't know, it doesn't really say that on there, but I want to share it because to me, the conversation and the exchange that Concerned Viewer and I had yesterday, and that now that Concerned Viewer follows up with today, is the very best kind of discourse people should have. And to me, it exemplifies exactly what I want this channel to be. So here's what Concerned Viewer writes. Concerned Viewer, by the way, didn't seem to know that I was on that stream last night, so maybe it was just written right after I was on the show. So again, Concerned Viewer, who wrote in yesterday, writes back, Rob, thanks for your thorough and thoughtful response to my letter on your appearance on the Echo Base Network video the other day. In retrospect, it probably would have been better to keep the letter a private message rather than have you read it on the show. Despite what some viewers think, the letter was not meant to be a direct criticism of you or your show, as I've enjoyed listening to your commentary for the past year and a half now. The letter was born out of a genuine concern over some of the people in that video. I am very suspicious of their motives and the things they say in their videos, as you should be with anyone, even me. In some cases, I think the things said in their videos could be harmful, probably. I don't disagree with you, and that opinion will likely never change, and nor should it. So I think the solution here is to try harder to ignore them and just keep on enjoying your show. Even though I checked the box for further discussion, I don't feel like you have to do so. I'll just leave it as an option. My main objective here is to clarify the motivation of my original letter. Thanks, and live long and prosper. Again, I got to hand it to Concerned Viewer. I thought we had reasonable discourse. Nobody was angry. I was a little at first taken aback, but this is the kind of thing that I expect. I expect somebody. I don't think whenever your own beliefs are questioned, or people question your motives, or ask you if you're being real or is this full of shit, I don't think you should ever have a problem having to stop for a minute and take time and think about what you're being asked and think about how it relates to you and answer. Because that always makes you, you should never stop considering or understanding your own beliefs, much less other people's, because you never know. And when someone comes after you and asks you something, or maybe doesn't come after you, but just asks you something, I think it's always important to be able to take stock and be like, you know what? This is something worth thinking about. And I think Concerned Viewer's letter yesterday, while it did get under my skin, you saw my response to it live. I had not read that letter before I read it aloud. That's one of the things, some letters I don't read before I read them. And it's, you've seen me a couple times, longtime viewers. I'm like, uh-oh, I'm digging myself a grave here. But I appreciated this. And Concerned Viewer, I want to thank you for writing in. I think very valuable exchange between all of us. So I want to thank you for that. Let's see. What is next? Appearances this comes from Jason Webster. Jason Webster says, Hi, Robert. I hope yourself and all the majestic members of the Post-Singularity are healthy and happy. I'd like to weigh in on the subject of yourself appearing on another YouTube channel's show. As you have said, you like to hear opposing points of view through healthy discourse. That way, the conversation leads to uncovering greater commonality than differences. I agree with that. You always maintained you want Robservations to be a forum for the Post-Geek Singularity to be an inclusive community where commonality outweighs differences. That's true. I believe you've achieved this, judging by the wonderful people that comprise the PGS. Well, thank you for that. As I said in the chat yesterday, I agree with the cultural studies theory championed by numerous theorists that we all engage in negotiated readings of texts, all media. We choose texts based on personality, upbringing, and what stimulates us either intellectually or culturally. Just because you choose to watch one channel doesn't mean you will watch or subscribe to another channel, even if that channel is similar. Nor does it mean you choose another channel just because someone from your favorite channel appears on that channel, and this is the same for everyone. You choose texts based on your personality, upbringing, and stimulates you intellectually and culturally. For example, if you like films for various reasons, if you like a film because you like the director and her visuals, again, this is the same for everyone. So we bring so much to the table that we draw on when choosing to accept or reject texts. We are not so one-dimensional to blindly accept all texts. I don't like every MCEU movie or DCEU film, though I like a majority of their films. I don't like every film ever directed by my favorite directors: Steven Spielberg, Alfred Hitchcock, Takashi Miike, Steven Spielberg, Ridley Scott, Quentin Tarantino, David Fincher, or Martin Scorsese. So you appearing on another channel's show doesn't automatically mean I will watch or subscribe to that other channel. I determine for myself whether I want to watch that show or not. Again, this is the same for everybody. Just because somebody's favorite YouTube channel host appears on another channel's show, that person does not like, does not mean that person should stop watching their favorite show and support it. Has anybody stopped watching the films of their favorite actor just because that actor appeared in or were interviewed on a television show they didn't like? I hope yourself and all the fantastic members of the Post-Geek Singularity enjoy the remainder of your week. Sincerely, Jason Webster. Well, Jason, a good letter. I very much appreciate that. Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I even watch YouTube channels of people that I actively don't like, that I don't like their politics. I don't even like them as people. But I watch their channel because they're out there promoting something or they're out espousing ideas and things like that. And I do want to understand. And I've told people, like, I don't like to live in an echo chamber because I like to live and hear all kinds of different and differing points of view. And I think it doesn't do any good when you only are listening to things that you like or know about, because how do you learn? How do you grow? I don't know. Omar94 wrote in he's been writing these letters that keep me thinking. Rob, moderators on Post-Geek Singularity. This is something you and others can correct me on, since I'm not entirely confident myself with what I'm trying to say. Something I notice with directors now, visionary filmmakers who changed the game in Hollywood. For example, the big-name filmmakers today like Chris Nolan, David Fincher, or Quentin Tarantino. While each of them made iconic movies in their career, like Quentin Tarantino making Pulp Fiction, Fincher making Seven and Fight Club, and Nolan doing Inception and the Batman movies, I don't really see them as true visionary filmmakers. They are not Steven Spielberg. They are not Alfred Hitchcock, Billy Wilder, or someone of that caliber. They're perfectly competent filmmakers. I know Fincher, Nolan, and Tarantino have loyal fan bases, but I don't think they and the other filmmakers now can be called true visionary filmmakers, even if I think the movies are good. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe the types of movies they make or the way they tell the stories, but I just don't see them, or really any filmmaker now, as being visionary filmmakers. As I said earlier, you and others can correct me on this, as I'm not entirely confident what I'm saying. Thanks, and live long and prosper. Well, here's the thing. Cinema, as we know it, has existed in a constant state of flux. So when cinema began back in the late 1800s and then we came into the era of sound films, and then black and white gave way to color, and then color gave way to widescreen, and then in the 70s, documentary film style came in, and then technology at the end of the 70s, special effects technology brought new ways of making films. I think the cinematic form was constantly evolving and changing in terms of storytelling. And like when Hitchcock first started, for instance, the fact that he was storyboarding every shot in his movies, the way he made movies was different from, say, the way Jean-Pierre Melville was making things like, I don't know, Le Samurai, or was different than what the Italian neorealists are doing, or the French New Wave. Everybody was doing different things with film. But film as a medium, as a storytelling medium, is only so malleable. There's only so many different things you can do with film. And I think one of the things that you might be responding to is, now with the technology that's available, we now aren't getting, like, you're talking about visionary filmmakers. I mean, I would argue that Fight Club is a pretty visionary movie. I would argue that Pulp Fiction is a visionary movie, and that it hadn't really been done. And it's sure, Club and Seven were using cinematic techniques that were fairly new. In Seven, the resilvering process and things like that. I've been told that this channel is buffering here. I don't know. I don't know why. It's been something, there's been weird stuff happening on YouTube. Wow, I'm looking at this. You're right, the stream. Yeah, I don't know why. It's very strange that YouTube has been buffering. It's been very frustrating. Anyway, so I just think that we now are in an age where cinema, is there much more that can be done? We're still telling stories, but I think that the form, it's kind of like the novel. There's not there's people that have played with language and other things, and but I think that the novel itself has reached a point where how much more can you do? What you're left with is just telling stories. And I think that the era that you talk about, like when Steven Spielberg first started working, when you go back and you look at what Jaws was new, Jaws and Star Wars, that kind of blockbuster cinema, that didn't even exist before. Not really, not like that. And I think that in a way, maybe cinema as an art form has sort of settled down into where it is going, where it's wound up, where it's going to be. I think now the real visionaries are going to move into other realms, virtual reality. Once again, wow, I'm watching my stream cut in and out, which is really, really frustrating. So I apologize for that. But I think maybe cinema has gone as far as it can go. I mean, sure, there's a million more stories to be told, but in terms of visionary, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that there is a lot more for cinema to do. I really don't. I really don't know. But I do think that there are directors who, like, I do think David Fincher is a visionary filmmaker. I think that there's stuff going on technically in his movies, whether it was in Zodiac, whether it was in Seven, whether it was in Fight Club, and he's doing things. Benjamin Button, he was pushing effects technology to the limits, and I think that he's a filmmaker that's really doing some interesting things. But is he doing things that are groundbreaking? I don't know, but I think we'll have to see. You have to see. Also, time will tell more about a visionary filmmaker. I do think Tarantino's use of time and pastiche of other kinds of films is pretty visionary, and there's nobody working in Hollywood like him, and there never has been, and there probably never will be. So I would consider him to be a visionary filmmaker. I mean, I definitely would. Yeah, I mean, maybe you guys don't, but I certainly, I mean, I do, definitely. But again, your mileage may vary. I mean, it's hard to say. What do you guys think? But I do think a lot of it has to do with there's just more movies than there ever were. Hitchcock made his last movie in the 70s, and look at how many movies have been made since then. A lot. So things have changed. And things have, they're going to constantly change. So whether visionaries, how we define visionaries, maybe there's just really competent directors working in cinema, and the idea of being visionary has gone away because everything or most of the things that can be done in the 2-hour form of movies, storytelling, narrative features, maybe we're at the end of that. Maybe. And maybe we're just settling into a way of doing things. And look, I think cinema will always be around, but I do think that we're going to, virtual reality and virtual worlds and things like that are where the real visionaries are going to lie. Video games, that kind of thing. We shall see. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where it all winds up. We shall see. I don't know. Let's see what you guys are saying. I don't know. I don't know what I have to say. I'm rambling. I just keep saying I don't know. Like, what am I saying? I don't know. I'm worrying about the stream. I'm like, what's going on? I totally have my concentration broken. Let me get back into it and see where I was here. Let's see. Scott K. This is fun. Scott K said, this was from yesterday, but I hadn't read it on the stream. Scott K says, Viceroy of Verisimilitude, thank you for helping Star Wars Theory raise that money for St. Jude's. Speaking of verisimilitude, I had an instance of it breaking in the latest Star Wars novel. They say the Galactic Republic has infinite resources, but in the same sentence, it says it was stretched thin constructing a single space station. So either they could build a quadrillion of these stations, or they're on the brink of collapse due to lack of resources. It's such a Schrodinger's statement. Well, all I can say to that is yes. That referring to Schrodinger's cat. When you're not observing something, does it exist or not exist, or at the same time? That whole conundrum. That's bad writing to me, because like you're pointing out, like what does that mean exactly? We have infinite resources, but they're being stretched thin. I mean, how do you have infinite resources stretched thin? I don't know. That's a bad sentence, and it would shatter verisimilitude with me too. Madzif Yada says, Padre, these are subtleties. We're not concerned with motives, with the higher ethics. We're concerned only with cutting down crime. That's my favorite character in A Clockwork Orange, as you asked me the other day. So there you go. Paul in Long Beach said, So Rob, how soon until I get to publish another First Amendment rant? Whenever you want. I'm kind of tired having the same discussion over and over. On the other hand, it is a new year, and does that give me license to insult Mayor Mike Bodden and Detective Jim Boyers? So, why would you want to insult Detective Jim? I miss Detective Jim. Why would you want to insult Mike? They're doing their best. I should call Detective Jim. See if he wants to judge the film festival. I miss Detective Jim. Emil Johansson says, my dream is to see Deadpool talking to us, but from the perspective of other characters, as if someone is talking to God or an audience that doesn't exist. Well, Emil, with Kevin Feige saying they're going to make a Deadpool 3 and that it's going to be in the Marvel Universe, you may just get your wish. Stubble McShave says, Rob, you should have a Star Trek-themed member system. You're the Star Trek captain of the Robservation ship. Mike is the commander. Moderators are security officers. Members are different ranks, starting with ensign. Non-member subscribers are enlisted. I like that idea. Maybe I'll run that by Mike. Anonymous says, great to see so many of YouTubers putting their differences aside and unite to raise $36,000 for St. Jude's in 2 hours. I was both delighted and proud to see you on that stream, representing us so well. Your presence there was a fine example to us all. Well, thank you. Salute. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Anonymous. That's what it's all about, you know. But I have to say, I got to give it to Star Wars Theory. I just met him, and he asked me to come on the stream, and it was good to be on there with those guys, and I thought it was a lot of fun and very worthwhile. So that's I think that's a good thing. Roger Haynes sent in a super chat. Thank you, Roger. Sheriff Carl says, was very heartened by your love for Emma Major League Baseball. Mother Love Bone. Chloe Dancer, Crown of Thorns is my favorite song ever. Did you know Andy Wood's alter ego, Landru the Love Child, was inspired by a Star Trek episode? Have you done a whining about movies on singles? We should. Here we should. We should. That's a good idea. I said to Elizabeth, we watched singles, but she's like, oh, well, I don't remember that. And I'm like, well, that's not surprising, but we did, in fact, watch it. What Sheriff Carl is saying is he was asking me about Andy Wood. Mother Love Bone was a Seattle band, and they were featured on the soundtrack. Andy Wood died, and he was featured. Well, Mother Love Bone was featured on the soundtrack of the movie Singles, which I can't believe is 30 years old now. Cameron Crowe made Singles after Say Anything, and it was his love letter to Seattle. And the movie is about Seattle, and it's got the grunge scene is in it. I mean, Chris Cornell's in the movie. Matt Dillon has a band called Citizen Dick. And in his band are Eddie Vedder, Stone Gossard, and Jeff Ament, and they're in the band. Pearl Jam is Citizen Dick, and it's just very funny to see. A compliment for us is a compliment for you. But yeah, Mother Love Bone. My favorite song, Chloe Dancer, Crown of Thorns, is here. I wonder. Let's see. I put it. I put it in the chat, but I'll put it in the chat again. And it is one of the great songs to come out of Seattle. Chloe's just like me on the beautiful couple years different. I love this song. So here it is. Let me put it in. If you don't know the song, you probably know the song. Everybody's heard the song. It's a lot better than a lot of the music you hear today. I'll say that. So here it is, Chloe Dancer, Crown of Thorns, and I'm putting it in the live chat. It's such a good song. But yeah, so that's what they are in fact referring to. So Sheriff Carl, I'm glad that you appreciated my answer. It's funny, when I see MLB, my first thing is Major League Baseball. I'm like, oh, it's Mother Love Bone. Citizen Bane says, yo, Rob, seeing you and Star Wars Theory together on streams is my favorite collaboration since Lana Rhodes and Riley Reid. Wow. Really? Well, okay. I don't think that I know that. But you know what? I'd like to see that collaborate. Actually, hang on. I can't put that in the live chat though. You know what? I'm going to say that I don't think I've ever been complimented more than that, Citizen Bane. I want to thank you very much for that. I don't know if I should tell Star Wars Theory that, what he would make of it. Mexican Iron Man sends it. Oh, hello, sir, and thank you for a generous super chat. Great and timely subject today, as always. Thank you for yesterday and being a catalyst to raise over $35,000 for St. Jude's. The original goal was $10,000. You're a great man with brilliant knowledge and endless energy. Thank you, sir. Well, Mexican Iron Man, again, I was just asked to show up, and I was late because I was on this stream. But it is amazing. I mean, that was so for those of you who don't know, I was on Star Wars Theory, who's been in the news for the last couple weeks because of Pablo Hidalgo and the response to The Mandalorian's episode 16 and everything. I was on with like Gary from Nerdrotic and Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers and a pantheon of great other genre or fantasy, imagination connoisseur YouTubers. And we all got together, and we're all very different kinds of people. But Star Wars Theory had a stream specifically to raise money for St. Jude's. And the goal was $10,000. That's what the goal was. And we were on for 2 hours, and we blew through. It was from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and we ended up making almost $36,000. And I mean, I don't take credit for that. I think I give it all the credit goes to Star Wars Theory and to the viewers. I mean, it was the viewers that were donating, and what was great was I didn't realize that if I ever do another a charity stream, having money going directly to the charity is great. Because normally, when people would donate to you, if you're doing, like when John Campy or I have tried to raise money in the past, now there's ways where you can just upload it to whatever charity that you want, but you have to have money taken out by both PayPal, and when you donate money, 30% of it goes to Google if you super chat. It's just like if somebody sends you a super chat, you get 30% of it. If they send it to Stream Elements, if you tip over at Stream Elements, you get more of that, but they take a bite. But when you're doing a charity stream like that, there was no super chat button. It went right to St. Jude's, and I thought that was really great. I mean, I didn't realize that was even a thing. I mean, I think that was definitely, especially in the time of a pandemic, for so many people to give of themselves, and that was a lot of money to raise in 2 hours. But it shows the power of this community. The power of the community. I mean, and when I say this community, I'm talking about the greater imagination connoisseur or film pundit community that exists out here in YouTube land, and meaning all of you. And it's pretty great. So I appreciate you saying so, Mexican Iron Man, but really it was the community of people. We can talk shit about how things can get bad and political and all that, but really at the end of the day, I believe that there's a lot of good people out there, and we all have a lot of common ground, and Star Wars Theory proved that yesterday. And I thought I have to say, it was very exciting to be a part of. NPE94 says, is there any way a big movie like James Bond could open one region at a time as different continents recover from the pandemic? Asia, Europe, and then the U.S.? Well, NPE, would normally say yes. The problem is piracy. I mean, it's not just, how do you spend, you'd have to market in all those places differently, but a lot of it has to do with, well, marketing and piracy. Once something rolls out somewhere, especially Bond, it's going to get pirated and put up on Pirate Bay or torrented or whatever. So I think that's a real problem, unfortunately. I think it's a bummer. I mean, they could do that. They used to do that. Like when movies were there was less money at stake, they would roll out regionally. Like you'd have an independent film that would take a year to roll out, even in the United States. So Calvin Bowes says, have you noticed that when people make phone calls in movies and TV, no one ever says goodbye? They just hang up? You've worked on scripts. Why does everyone always just hang up? That's a good question. Some people say goodbye, but yeah, in spy movies and things, people they just hang up. I don't know. I think it's an affectation. It's just a thing in movies. I don't know why. I don't know why. But that's a very, very good question. Brendan Sheehy says, Rob, who is your favorite unusual leading man? By that, I mean an actor that rises to the top on talent despite not having the standard Hollywood physical looks. The Giamattis and the Buscemi's. My favorite is Bob Hoskins in films like The Long Good Friday and Mona Lisa. Ooh, that's a really good idea. Like, I think people, especially in modern movies, are too good looking. I know that might sound strange, but Humphrey Bogart was not necessarily a traditional matinee idol looking dude. And I mean, he's not an ugly man, but to me, he looked like he's an interesting man. Like he looks interesting. He looks like he belongs in movies. And I like that. I think that those are my favorite kinds. Maybe that's why I like movies of the 70s so much. I mean, sure, you had like Paul Newman and Robert Redford being Butch Cassidy and Sundance, but they're beautiful. But one of the things I liked, one of my favorite actors in the 70s and ever is Roy Scheider. Now, Roy Scheider is not a bad-looking guy. But he's not Robert Redford or Paul Newman. And I loved Roy Scheider because he looked real to me. Like when he played a part, I wasn't like, oh, I'm watching Robert Redford play a part or Paul Newman play a part. I'm just watching Sheriff Brody. Or I'm just watching Joe Gideon in All That Jazz. Or I'm just watching Haywood Floyd in 2010 in the 80s. And I like when actors make me think that. I just think of the character. I don't think of the actor. And I think that's really rare. And I think you're right. I mean, like Paul Giamatti in a movie like Sideways, I really liked. Even Thomas Hayden Church is a handsome guy, but unconventionally handsome. And I thought Sideways, having the two of them together was great. Steve Buscemi, obviously, with his teeth or not, he doesn't have perfect teeth. And I've always liked the fact that it gives him a charactery vibe. And like I really love Steve Buscemi in Reservoir Dogs. I think he's great. Love him. And I love his character. I love the way he acts. I think it's great. But he's a non-traditional Hollywood leading man. So I think those are good. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it before, but I have to tell you, the thing that just popped into my mind is James Spader. Like James Spader began as a matinee idol. If you go back to My Beloved Tough Turf that he was in, or Jack's Back, or Less Than Zero, or any of the movies, The New Kids when he was Dutra, the villain. He was a handsome guy, but now as Red Reddington, he's bald. He's a little porky. I love that about him. I think it's great. But maybe I'm biased. I carry a little bit about what I used to think of James Spader with me because I'm still a huge James Spader fan, but I like that. Because again, he can play these character roles, and it's not like, oh, I'm watching James Spader play a role. I'm like, oh, I'm watching Red Reddington, and I think that's good. I really like that. Keaton Toothman says, oh, stayed up waiting for more to post, but nothing. Yeah, well, part of that's your fault. Your fault. You the length of certain things. I'll let the audience decide for themselves. But Keaton Toothman's waiting for some movies to drop. Well, they are gonna drop today. Probably. You know what? Actually, to be honest, they're up, but I haven't set the premiere. So the process that I go through when I'm given film festival movies is I have to re-upload them, and I have to make specific files for them and add my opening and closing. Then I have to re-export them and then import them into YouTube. It's a lengthy process, and the longer things are, the longer it takes. So, and then when I get them up into YouTube, I set the premiere and all that. But yes, so keep a lookout. I probably will. I don't know if I'll put them up to go up tonight, or maybe I'll do it in the morning. I don't know, but you shall see. Sub McShave says, I can't make up my mind. Ooh, this is a good one. Does Where Eagles Dare take place in movie world or the mundane real world? I got to tell you, Stubble. Good question. I've got to say Where Eagles Dare takes place in movie world. And I say that because the sets are sets. And it's clearly, there's not enough verisimilitude for it to take place in mundane world. I think Where Eagles Dare takes place in movie world. But it's a very good question to ask. I love that question. Sheriff Carl sends in a tip and says, we park our Star Dog champions in the same arena. I highly recommend the deluxe edition of the single soundtrack with Touch Me, I'm Dick, and the deluxe Mother Love Bone, Not Baseball box set. There should also be a Blu-ray of the Andy Wood documentary forthcoming. I don't think I was aware that there is a singles deluxe soundtrack. Let me look on this. Singles deluxe. There it is. Singles deluxe soundtrack. Can you get a hard copy of it? Wow, deluxe edition. I'm looking at the it's on Amazon. Deluxe version, stream. Oh, there is an audio CD. There is an audio CD. Let's see what's on it that is not on the regular soundtrack album. That's a good question. Well, streaming. You can listen with your app. Dyslexic Heart, Battle of Evermore. Oh. Wow, this is huge. This is enormous. I didn't even know this existed. Wow, this has got great stuff on here. I think I'll have to pick that up. And Touch Me, I'm Dick is on it. So there you go. I'm going to have to buy that. I'll have to get that CD. Thanks for that. I didn't even know that existed. See, I learn something new every day. I'm going to have to get that. Well, Sheriff Carl, thank you for that. John says, I really enjoyed the Tango Shalom trailer, and I've viewed and shared it several times. Is there a schedule of the festival dates and virtual showtimes? There are. If you're interested in seeing, I do have a VPN. I'm not suggesting that you use that VPN to watch Tango Shalom. I'm not. But yes, underneath the trailer in the description, the 3 upcoming festivals, there's 3. There's Jaipur, India, which is on January 19th. Then there is the San Diego Jewish Film Festival, and then the Charlotte, well, I can show you, just so you know. Here is the San Diego International Jewish Film Festival and the Charlotte Jewish Film Festival. The Levine Jewish Community Center Cultural Arts Department presents. So that's, I think it's on February 11th. And then in Charlotte, or maybe Charlotte goes up on the 8th. It plays on the 18th through the 1st of March. So check it out. And then San Diego. Those are the first 3. So there's Jaipur, India, which is on the 19th. And then there is San Diego and Charlotte. I appreciate the support. Thank you for doing that. Bonsoir, Elliot. Oh, I mean Robert. Using Stubble McShave's suggestion for the PGS hierarchy, I recommend that Elizabeth hold the rank of commander, medical officer, and unofficially as number 1, and as the ship's computer and as a Bedized ambassador. I'm sure Elizabeth would love to hear all that responsibility thrown on her. She'll love that. She just wants crew members to help wash the dishes as far as it goes. Stubble, thank you for that, Claudius. Stubble says, How much do you think the digital distribution of movies to theaters have affected movies being released the same day? Earlier, there probably wasn't enough physical copies of the movie to have it playing at every theater at once. Well, what happens is they have what's called a DCP, a digital cinema package, really, and it's a computer, it's software. It's a file. It's a file that gets loaded up onto their servers and plays. So they can make as many of those as they want, really. But oh, Elizabeth says, you can't see me because I left the... That was just an ad. That was just an ad for the San Diego Jewish Film Festival. It was my way of being subtle. I don't think day and date... Look, see, now I'm looking at it. So there you go. I had to start and stop again. Seems like the stream is... Boy, this is YouTube. Once again, it's doing this wonky thing that's happening. John Campia, we had to record live today because we couldn't go on. We had to record the show because it wouldn't stream. How much do you think the digital distribution of movies to theaters has affected movies being released the same day? Well, before you had to ship prints. Movie theaters had to literally print, 6 reels on that had to be put up on platters. That was problematic, but now it's just a file. I guess you could download the files too, so it doesn't. I don't think it affects movies very much now. You can get movies. If you need to get 6,000 screens to show a movie in one day, you could do that if you wanted to. Evan Newman says, don't count on being back at the movies anytime soon. Dr. Fauci said today that concert venues and theaters might reopen sometime in the fall of 2021 with masks, social distancing, and negative test requirements probably being necessary for some time. Yeah. Evan, I can absolutely see that. It's unfortunate, but that's just the world that we're living in. It's what a bummer that is. Yeah. It's a bummer. And I mean, I'd really like to see No Time to Die in a theater. But then again, if No Time to Die, if the first time I have to see the new James Bond movies on a TV, it'd be like seeing Bond when I was a kid for the first time on TV, even though that's not ideal. Not Citizen Bane says, Yo, Rob, in the spirit of Fatal Attraction and Angelina... Wait a minute. In the spirit of Fatal Attraction and Angelina being hot in Maleficent, could you suggest a movie where there is a female antagonist who doesn't hurt my eyes? Well, how about Basic Instinct? Or how about Dr. Sleep, Rebecca Ferguson? She's an antagonist that doesn't hurt your eyes. Whoo, my. Female I thought Linda Fiorentino was pretty hot in The Last Seduction. Kathleen Turner in her hot days and Body Heat. That was a good one. Or if you really want one of my favorite female antagonists in any movie ever, Lena Olin. Maybe a little older, but Lena Olin in Romeo is Bleeding. If you guys haven't seen Romeo is Bleeding, let me tell you. As a matter of fact, let me get the trailer and put it in the live chat. Because Romeo is Bleeding is an amazing movie. 1993's Romeo is Bleeding. And if you haven't seen this movie, we should do this movie for whining about movies. Romeo is Bleeding is one great movie. So not Citizen Bane, those are my suggestions. I think those are pretty good. I think those are great, if I do say so myself. Let's see. Now here is something interesting. This comes from Saul, and this is a long rambling letter, but I'm going to share it again, and I warn you, let's get political. Hello, Rob, long-time listener, first time writing to anyone anywhere online. but I'm not sure if I'll be listening to you for much longer. Why? I'm getting sick of the encroaching leftist views starting to appear on your channel. People urging you not to talk to the other side, the nerdrotics, the doomcocks, and the asses of the internet world. But I will be talking to them. Let me ask you this, Rob. Has anyone from that side of the aisle ever asked you not to talk with anyone on the left? They have not. Have they asked you not to appear on podcasts that may have opposing political views? They have not. I doubt it, because they, me, we aren't that brainwashed or childish, or so blind and immature that we can't have a debate on any subject. Instead, we have some of your viewers saying you are recruiting them and exposing them to these types of people. So they are, in fact, starting to mimic big tech, Google, Facebook, Twitter, CNN, etc., in calling for censorship because that is their cowardly way out. These social justice warriors are now empowered by the by the scumbags that are set to take over power in the next week or two in your crumbling country. Welcome to Orwell's 1984. Now, I've got to stop you right there. We have had Democratic presidents before, and we will have Democratic presidents again. And the world has not come to an end. It has begun. Give yourselves a big round of applause for the disgusting way your media has filled your minds with ass gravy of the highest grade. You were on the Midnight's Edge podcast a few weeks ago when you were told by Andre that we here in Europe can see your country has been taken over by communist-loving scumbags. It is being torn apart from within on purpose. To watch you placate these arseholes is disgusting sometimes, and then throw in your own brainwashed take on things is heartbreaking. You asked Jason C. what proof did he have for his own views. Do some simple research. Go look up the photo of Biden hanging out with the Grand Wizard of the KKK, not Donald Trump. It was George Bush's grandfather that led an attempted coup in 1933 to overthrow the standing government, foiled by Major General Smedley Butler. It wasn't Trump's grandfather. Go read The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America by Charlotte Thompson. Iserby, whose father was a member of the infamous Skull and Bones in Yale. Well, okay, look, I mean, you go on and you bring up a lot of, wait a minute, let me see. The one thing that has put me off your show, and a few others, is the ignorant, brain-dead attitude toward Christopher Nolan's Tenet. To watch you and your arbiter of cinematic excellence tear that film down was laughable. To watch you be so anal about the premise of a film, that an object's entropy can be reversed, was pathetic. You, Rob, a fellow filmmaker, to see you roll out the rules of verisimilitude when it suits you is sad, and sadly smacks of jealousy. Nolan came up with a premise so as to allow the craft of filmmaking to begin. The challenge then was to choreograph what happens when objects are traveling backwards and forwards on film without green screen or CGI. To hear you say Nolan has gone up his own ass is shameful. If you like, I will apply the same rule to every film ever made and tear it a new ass in terms of verisimilitude. I never hear these anal rules being applied to Die Hard or Indiana Jones or even your precious Dawn of the Dead. You made every excuse for that piece of shite Wonder Woman 84. Oh, I don't know. I thought we ripped it up. Keep watching Terminator Dark Fate or Rise of Skywalker or Ghostbusters 2016 or Birds of Prey, Justice League, Batman v Superman, etc., etc. All pieces of shite. Filmmaking at its worst in this day and age. But it's Nolan who's up his ass, not Zack Snyder, not Patty Jenkins, not Spielberg. Yes, Spielberg. Spielberg made Indiana Jones 4. Yes, but I hated that too. That scene where the other asshole is swinging with the monkeys and then fencing on the back of a Jeep is absolutely shameful and downright lazy. I agree. Is it everyone else that's churning out that crap? Without Nolan, I would be done with films. I wouldn't give an F about Hollywood film or Hollywood. Nolan is the only director whose films I bother going to see in the cinema. Other than that, I don't venture near the cinema. None of these so-called storytellers ever get a dime off of me. And then there's you, Rob, sitting there in your garage, slowly turning into Mrs. Doubtfire, boozed up with your know-it-all sidekick, throwing stones at a greenhouse, as they say. You say it's not show friends, it's show business, and yet after all this time in the business, living in L.A., you don't seem to be very good at business. Your first film was a flop. You have another film on the shelves over copyright because of some musical act. You fell out with the guy that was involved with Agent Cody Banks. You've done the same to the guy who you work with on Axonar and ended up getting sued along the way. I didn't get sued. And now some story about a rabbi who tangos? Oh, I can't wait. I, too, will be aiming high and making a film about a black transgender midget who learns Irish dancing. I'm sure there must be one. 2 film festivals in the world who will gladly want to make up the numbers with my own piece of shit film. Yeah, Rob, you seem to be really good at the business side of things. To see you, Midnight's Edge, and a few other film review sites say that Tenet is shite and that they don't understand the plot is a sign to how far the bar has fallen. To hear grown men on film-based podcasts say Tenet is shite but that they love Gremlins or Bill and Ted 3 or Fat Man or those pieces of trash. The Fast and the Furious film shows me they all are stuck in the past, brain dead, trapped in their own nostalgia, making every excuse for agenda-driven pieces of shite and these cheesy camp superhero films. It makes me thankful, Rob. Thankful that I don't live in the USA where the IQ seems to be plummeting faster than the ratings for Blunder Woman 1984. You are not, nor are you surrounded by imagination connoisseurs. You and your corrupted culture are in fact imagination convoluters. Keep sucking on the techno-tight teat of poison BS you call the news. Goodbye to the most weak link singularity. Well, I would say, Saul, that's quite the epic takedown. I think you make some valid points. I do. I really do. I think that, look, clearly this is an epic rant that I didn't even read all of it, and I toned down your language. Look, what can I say? I don't have to be doing this movie punditry, and I'm sorry if Tango Shalom is not something that floats your boat. Look, I stand by what I said about Tenet. I am a big Christopher Nolan fan. I loved Batman Begins. I loved The Dark Knight. I thought The Dark Knight Rises was full of needless plot holes and stuff that didn't make any sense. And I was perplexed as to how Christopher Nolan, who is a very smart guy, lets so many ridiculous things in his movie diminish what should have been a better film. I love a lot of Dark Knight Rises, but a lot of it doesn't make a lick of sense. And I don't think Christopher Nolan is the only good filmmaker working today. And I understand that you might. I mean, I certainly appreciate that. But, Interstellar, and I thought Interstellar, and I thought that The Dark Knight Rises should have been better. I think Tenet was a movie. I understand a lot of its practical effects. I get that. I understand that. But I stand by what I said. I thought the film was needlessly convoluted. And I don't think that when you're traveling back through time, my whole problem with that film is how that's being depicted on screen. I don't think traveling back through time, I mean, you're watching time on like a tape that you're reversing and moving forward. I don't think that's how it would work. Like once you're inverted, you're moving back on the same track of time. I mean, just the fact that you're moving through a space where some other part of time is moving forward, but only you are going backward. I didn't buy it. My verisimilitude, you're probably never going to see my objection to your letter, but I just didn't buy that premise. And I don't think that there's anything wrong I don't think there's anything wrong for not buying a premise. I just didn't buy into it. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's see. Commander Claudia says, Robert, wow, so many Brooklyn natives in Tango Shalom, including Lady Kazan and the late, great Joseph Bologna. Question, who's going to make the Tango Shalom wiki page? I don't know. Who will anybody? By the way, Tango Shalom was shot in Brooklyn. So it's truly a Brooklyn movie through and through. Hopefully the Brooklyn Jewish Film Festival will allow it in. I'd love to see it play there. Also, Not Citizen Bane sent in a tip and says, I meant to say Basic Instinct instead of Fatal Attraction, but I'm hammered, so don't hurt bunnies. Well, let me tell you, Fatal Attraction then has a great female antagonist as well. So I would say do that. Go watch that. So there you go. Yeah, Saul, this is a pretty interesting, epic letter that you've written. But, in terms of business, maybe. Oh wait. Um. Um. Uh. P.S. Rob, go listen to your friend Az. Hang on a second. Saul has sent me a P.S. P.S. Rob, go listen to your friend Az on last Friday's Friday Night Lights Tights with It's a Gundam. Go to 2 hours and 39 minutes and listen. He knows, and I dare you, Rob. I effing dare you to read out a letter by Albert Pike written in 1871. You'll find it online. You keep saying there's no conspiracy. Read that letter and tell me if it sounds familiar. Okay, Mr. Saul, let's see. I'm unfamiliar with this, but I'll look it up. I mean, I probably could have asked about it, but let me, 1871. The 1871, Albert Pike, Mongrels and Dogma, 1871. 3 World War letter. Let's see. Let's see who Albert Pike is. You know what? I'll read it and see what I think about it. But look, here's the thing. Here's my problem. Here's my problem with as a person who enjoys fiction, and when people are always talking about the great conspiracies or the great resets or the great all of this stuff, it's kind of like when you read novels or dark fantasy books about the devil. Like, I love reading books, as everyone knows, bring me satanic cults, bring me the devil, whatever. The great conspiracy. I was raised a Jew, so I've heard about the great Zionist, the Zog, the Zionist-occupied government. Everybody's, the conspiracy theory about how Jews are going to want to run the world and all that, because I'm still waiting. Please, and where's when the Jews take over, do I get my Jewish stimulus check? I was bar mitzvahed. I'd like to not be busting my ass anymore. So, but anytime I read these stories about conspiracies and all that, I always ask myself, I always wonder, like, it's one thing to, like, get rich and wield power. I get that. But how much power and do you really want, and what are you going to do with it? It all comes back to my loving dark fantasy novels when I was a kid. Like, I love horror stories about whether it's the devil or whether it's Cthulhu or whatever creatures coming up from the Stygian depths of wherever, whether it's an alternate dimension or hell or whatever, and the devil's going to come up and the devil's going to take over the world. Well, then what? Like, what if the devil wins? Like in Omen 3, if Jesus doesn't come down in the final conflict and the world is plunged in, like, what's the devil going to do to the planet? Like, is the devil going to, like, make sure people have good public education? Is the devil just going to destroy the world and steal the souls of everyone here and put them to work in the afterlife? Like, what are you going to do? So the strange thing to me is I've always wondered, so let's say every global conspiracy is correct. Let's say the Reploids from the Planet 10, like in Buckaroo Banzai, let's just say the David Icke reptilian people are here and they've infiltrated the highest levels of society and they've taken over completely. Well, then what? What? I mean, we're still here. Everybody's going to still want their mail to come and go. They want to have power. They want to eat food. Like, what are you going to do once the conspirators take over? That's my question that I ask. Okay, you mean we don't have powerful people that are already, like Jeff Bezos, if he's part of the global conspiracy, needs to make more money? I mean, isn't he already making enough money? Don't we already know he's making enough money? I mean, who wields more power on the planet than Jeff Bezos? I mean, Elon Musk arguably could, but would you rather be Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, or do you want to be in some part of some cabal that's going to take over the world? Like, then what are you going to do? Like, the people are still going to be here. Let's say that like Hitler won World War II, or there was a new Hitler and there was a Fourth Reich rises and that they win the world. Well, what are you going to do when you get to China or you get to India? Are you going to eliminate all those people because they're not part of the fatherland? That's not going to work out. That's not really going to be beneficial. Besides, you need the manufacturing in China and India to get anything made. Like, what are you going to do? So this whole idea about conspiracies and taking over and consolidating power and all that seems pretty silly when you're dealing with 7 billion people on the planet Earth. And I understand when people get all amped up and everything, I'm being called, well, those Democrats. What are the Democrats going to do? Like, look, I don't believe in quashing free speech. I think human beings are at their best when they're able to pursue their bliss. And I don't think limiting people's abilities to do things is very productive. That's why I don't believe in communism as a viable economic methodology or worldview or way of living your life, because at the end of the day, communism doesn't allow an individual to seek excellence for themselves. And I think that's part of the human spirit is, the reason that people become great athletes is not because they want to beat other people. I mean, part of winning and becoming a great athlete is you have to measure yourself against people that are as good, if not better than you. But for the most part, people who get into those things get into them because they love doing them. I didn't get into making movies because I wanted to make a ton of money. And you're right. I have not been a very good businessman in my career, to be honest, Saul. And the thing is, the reason is because I have never done it for the money. I did not go into this as an avocation. I went into it as a obsession, really. I mean, I love making films. Do I want to get paid for it? Yes. Would I like to live a life where I got more checks for the work I did? Sure. But I love the process, and that's why I enjoy it. And whether you like Tango Shalom or not, I will tell you this: for the resources that we had, for the money that we made, or the money that we made it with, and all what we had to make it, I will say that Tango Shalom is in itself, unto itself, the best version of Tango Shalom that there could absolutely be. From what we have and what existed, I came on after the fact. I spent 4.5 years of my life on and off putting that movie together, and I can honestly say that version of Tango Shalom is the best version of that film that will ever exist or ever could have existed. I take great satisfaction in that. There's going to be most of the people, in fact, that I know, it's not going to be their thing. It's not an imagination connoisseur film. It's not about science fiction, fantasy, and horror. It's about a middle-aged rabbi who needs money and ends up dancing the tango with a young, pretty shiksa dancing partner, and helps his family and his community. And that is not necessarily, if you love Star Wars or The Boys or Dune or whatever, Tango Shalom is not necessarily going to be your first choice. But if you like movies like that, I think for what it is, it's charming. And I don't have any dreams of grandeur, but for what it is, I'll tell you, I spent a long time getting that movie finished. And while should I have probably gone and done something with my time that was more worthwhile from a financial standpoint? Yes. But was there anything that would be more worthwhile to me from a creative standpoint? I don't know, because working on Tango Shalom taught me a great deal about filmmaking, and it was a very fulfilling thing to do. And you know what? If you told my 12-year-old self that I would have spent 4.5 years putting a movie like that together, my 12-year-old self would have been, I get to make movies for real? And I would have said, yes, Bobby, you do. And you know what my 12-year-old self would not have asked me? Am I going to get rich doing it? He wouldn't have thought that way. I never thought that way. So, what can I say? So let's see. Calvin Bose is back and says, I was watching Jaws and Jaws 2 last night. By the way, I love Jaws 2. I love Jaws. It's classic, but I love Jaws 2. And I noticed that in Jaws, the people going to the beach are families like in real life, but in Jaws 2, they're all beach bunnies, which is less realistic. I think you're right about that. But yes, it is less realistic. But yeah, it's a different time of year, right? Is it still the 4th of July? Emil Johansson says, don't read Albert Pike. Radical Islamists use it as a manifesto. It's a conspiracy. The Third World War will be Judeo-Christians versus Islam or something. And atheism will lead to a globalist government. Watch The Simpsons if you want predictions. Yeah, see, look, Christianity and Islam, the religions of the world, as we know more about the universe, will evolve. And I think as we push out into the stars, which is, I think that we're meant to, once you realize how big the infinitude of the universe really is, our provincial notions of the religions of the world being the idea of Armageddon happening on Earth, like, seems so crazy to me, because there's a whole universe out there that we're going to discover that presumably, if you're a devout believer, whatever God you believe in, and look, all the Western religions and Islam believe in the same God, all of those religions, the idea that when you go out into the universe, your ideas of God have to expand, because the universe's creation is part of God's creation too. So, why would God expect the Battle of Armageddon to happen on Earth? Why would we? Why don't we? What if that's all a euphemism? Who knows? I don't know. Keaton Toothman says, laugh out loud. I figure it was my fault somehow. Length, my friend. It's not your fault. It just takes a long time. Bob Koal says, watching the trailer for Tango Shalom has me hankering for Manischewitz sangria. Seeing Lainey Kazan caused me to remember Creator with Peter O'Toole. Maybe my favorite Kazan role. I love Creator. By the way, Lainey Kazan was over here, came to our house because I interviewed her for I did her like interview for the documentary that I'm going to make one day. And she was great. We all went out to dinner. What a treat that was. What a woman Lainey Kazan is. She is smart and funny. I love Lainey Kazan. So yeah. Kevin the Comic Doctor says, Rob, lots of haters out there. You always take the higher ground. Good on you, brother. Love the community you have created, my friend. Continue to never let the a-holes and big mouths bring you down. Well, I won't. I won't. But I understand, man. I mean, I understand that it's. I mean, I do feel fortunate in the sense that I've been interested in so many things that there's always something. If something gets me down over here, there's always something over here going, oh, that's cool. So I feel lucky in that. I feel very fortunate in my life in that. We live in a world that the technology that exists now that I can do so many different things because I just like doing them. I would love it. Like if I was independently wealthy, I would probably just like wander around the world, not like Kane in Kung Fu, but I would love to like wander around the planet for a couple of years. Like if I was independently wealthy, that's what I think I would do. Like Elizabeth and I would set off together and we would just wander around, go through France, go through Italy, go through Asian countries, eat food, meet people, hang out, and see the sights and take pictures. And that's what we would do. Like I wouldn't go buy his and her Picassos like in Basic Instinct. Or, I might buy a supercar or two, but really what I would rather do is just kind of wander around the earth. I love doing that. Hopefully there would be no more COVID. But my whole thing is I'm interested in stuff. I like people. I like the world. I like culture. I understand that money and power drive everything, but money and power are great, but you still have to live your life every day. You still have to get up in the morning. You still have to put on your pants, and it depends what you pay attention to. Like if you wanted to, you could put your smartphone away and you could travel around the country if you wanted to. Not during COVID or whatever, and not pay any attention to what's going on in the seats of power and just go hang out and meet people. Like during the lower 48 states, you could be like, okay, I'm going to spend the next 2 years traveling through the lower 48 states, and I'm going to go to every weird like Apple festival or basket weaving festival. I'm just going to go to every state and see what's going on in every state and just kind of wander around and stay in small towns and go meet people that you'd never meet and just have conversations and hang out at the bars and just meet people and chat and talk. I think that'd be fun too. So, the people that get angry, like people are angry at me. I'm just sitting here talking on YouTube. I'm trying to let's have fun. Let's talk about, Showgirls or Tremors or Christopher Nolan movies. If we didn't like, Elizabeth and I are having a conversation about Tenet, there's no reason to take it personally. If you like Tenet, we don't. I love Christopher Nolan, but, I do like the fact that I get people's ire up that much. I guess they put too much stock in it, but yeah, I really thought that Tenet could have been a much better movie than it was. It was the movie that Christopher Nolan wanted to make, but it didn't work for me. There have been movies that haven't worked for me in the past as well. I love Francis Coppola, but do I love, Tetro or no, Youth Without Youth? I didn't like those movies very much. Does that take away? Does that diminish? I love The Rainmaker, hell, and everyone talks about that not being a great Coppola movie. I think The Rainmaker is a great populist film. I think, it's a Grisham adaptation. I think The Rainmaker and The Firm would make a great double bill that could play forever. So, yeah, what can I say? I'm having a good time. Will N sends in a tip and says, that Saul rant was great. I truly respect that you took it like a man. Not many would take personal attacks to you and loved ones with a perspective of understanding. You should read hate mail more often. I don't get much hate mail. I read hate mail. If you want to write me hate mail, send it to me. I mean, I can't look. Truth is truth. If somebody thinks I'm looking, more and more like an old woman, that's fine. I mean, I'm growing older. The reality is I'm growing older. I'm not working out. I'm eating not as well as I could. I like alcohol. Those are all factual things. But by saying them, it doesn't, I'm like, if I wanted to be young and pretty again, never happen. I could work out and I could look like that guy in his late 50s who looks great. I could, it's like, here's the thing. I'm growing old and I'm going to die. And until then, I'm going to enjoy this life as much as possible. And when people send me hate mail, my first thought is I'm having more fun than them. Because I have never once again, this stream is very odd, very odd. So the idea for me is like I've never written a hate mail to anybody. I think a lot of my streams are hate mail to Star Trek Discovery, but for the most part, I mean, even Star Trek Discovery, for me, I don't have to watch it and then I wouldn't think about it. But I do watch it because I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by the fact, to me, like we talk about the culture wars and everything that's going on, I think Discovery is a result of what's going on in our culture. About how things have gone a bit awry. That's just me, and I think it's an evidence. There's evidence of that, and like what Saul was pointing out in that letter in his rant, is that he's right. The people that I deal with, the only people that really scare me right now are the people on what I would call the left on my side. Because they would get rid of free speech. They are putting themselves in a position of a place where they will arbitrate morality to people, which I don't understand. I've read all different kinds of things in my life, and I've never thought I shouldn't read them. And there are people that, and I also understand that the universe is indifferent to your suffering. So the idea, this idea that what I find really strange is that people, like, let's say if you're disabled, I have a couple of friends that were were born with less than ideal physical conditions. I've never once heard them talk about it. They've just they've lived with it for their whole lives, so it's just a thing. So, the people on the far left are beginning to get, to me, scary because they seem to put themselves into a position of knowing better than the rest of us and wanting to stop speech. And like I said, half my movie collection would get thrown out. You shouldn't have this. And it's weird. And this is something that's new, that's been happening bubbling up over the last 10 years. And it's so strange, but I guess it's because I know that the universe is indifferent to my suffering and that one day I will die soon. So the idea that I should concentrate and tell other people how to live or tell them how to manage their speech, or the fact that this idea that people shouldn't feel bad at all, is weird to me. That's why when somebody wants to be insulting to me, or I think to myself more often than not, like, that's interesting. I wonder if there's a shred of truth in that. And if there is, maybe I can alter what I'm doing and make myself better because of that. But I don't necessarily internalize it and turn it into something that, look, let me tell you, when you're out in public doing anything, whether you've made a movie, whether you're spouting off on the internet, whatever. As soon as I turned on this web camera and started talking, someone's going to think you're an asshole. I mean, and if you really think about it, I'm sitting here in a garage full of a bunch of stuff, talking into a camera, listening to my own voice on headphones. There's an element of being an asshole in there. I'll freely admit it. I mean, I have no problem. I have no problem saying that. So this idea, I mean, think about it. If you really think about it, like, I'm in a garage, right? I've got IKEA bookshelves. I've got Batman things. I got all this. I got a wooden figure of Burnham up there. I got a bunch of science fiction novels. Now, I've put this up because in my mind, I like all of this stuff and it makes me feel good. But there's just as much people that are going to be like, what kind of silly fucker is that dude? Why does he have all the crap? What does that say about him? Does he think he's cool? Elizabeth's like, those lights look like you're in a 12-year-old's bedroom, a 12-year-old girl's bedroom. Like, I don't know. I thought they were kind of cool. It kind of breaks things up. But if you really think about it, who am I? And so you can come at me and say whatever you want. All I know is that the person who's going to write me letters and get angry about who I associate with or who I fraternize with is having less fun than I am. And I know that the universe isn't different and I'm going to die. But until then, I want to enjoy myself. And I have fun talking to all of you. I like the Post-Geek Singularity community. Keaton Toothman has a movie going out. That movie, well, two. And I thought it was cool that somebody sent me a movie that I said, let's have a film festival. And people made movies. And now people are chomping at the bit to turn in their short stories. I'm like, I said, let's make movies, and people made movies. I said, man, we should have a short story competition. We're going to make a movie and publish a book. People are writing stories. Well, how is that not fun? I mean, that's the coolest thing ever. And I can sit around here and I can reach up because somebody, and they never even said who they were. What is this, you might ask? This is a miniature barrel from the boat in Jaws. That's what this is. And inside this barrel came a drink recipe, Quince Grog. Here you go. Let's see, maybe I can get over my Quince Grog. There it is. You can zoom in and see what it is. I don't even know who sent this to me. It came in the mail. It didn't have an explanation. It didn't say who sent it. It was just this and Quince Grog and this badass ceramic reproduction of one of the barrels from the movie Jaws that was Quince on the Orca. Someone just sent this to me. Now, getting this in the mail, this brought me happiness. Well, it brings me happiness now. I love this. This is just a reproduction of a barrel from Jaws made of ceramics. Came from someone in Florida. I don't know who. But I love this. This little artifact that in the grand scheme of things has no meaning in the greater universe. This has brought me, I think I got this like a year ago. This has brought me happiness since I got it. Why? Well, first of all, somebody thought to even make this in the first place. Like somebody said, hey, it's from this place, and they figured that's whatever store it's from. I don't even know what it is here. How can you not love this? I love this thing. Just like I love a lot of this stuff. And I'm like, we live in a world where there's all kinds of stuff like that all around us all the time. What's not to love? I mean, I like being here because you know what? There's going to be a time, probably a lot sooner than I would have hoped, that I won't be here anymore and I won't even know anymore. And that'll be a bummer. Andrew Christie says, I love conspiracy theories. Excellent material for great stories. I love them too. You might even say they're mythic, as I love to say, especially great stories for video games. Take the Metal Gear Solid series, for example. An epic political action conspiracy thriller. I love them too. I love conspiracy thrillers. The Parallax View, I can't wait, comes out on Blu-ray in March. Can't wait. Mon ami, it's a measure of your character that you patiently read that conspiracy nuts hateful rant. I am wondering which European libertarian free market republic he lives in. Yeah, I don't understand. I don't know. Phage Lives sent in a super chat and says, wait, you like reading hate mail? Look, I love reading hate mail because I learn from it. I look at hate mail as criticism. You know, I'll tell you something. It's like when you make a film or you do anything and you show. Look, I know for a fact that there's going to be people that don't like Tango. I have friends of mine that have watched Tango Shalom and were not fans of it because it's not their thing at all. Not their thing at all. And I get it. I understand. You know, when we edited, Peter Billingsley and I spent 6 months making Arcade, editing Arcade, a movie that we knew, even though he's in it, we knew it was never going to be great. It was never going to be great. Never. But we knew we were going to take something, our task was to take something unwatchable and unreleasable, and we could do whatever we want to it, and at the end of the day, we had to make it, well, at least mediocre, and it had to be released by the studio. That was what we were tasked with. And this has been a lot of my career in the film business. I've never been afforded really the opportunity to work on a lot of A-list stuff. So what I've been able to work on, I try and make it better to the best of my ability. So we did that. You know, we busted our ass when we made this movie, Arcade. We don't even get the editorial credit on it. We're additional editors in the end credits, and we worked on that movie far longer than anyone else who worked on that film. You know, we handled all posts. We recut the whole movie. We oversaw the sound mix, all of it. We busted our asses for, I can't even tell you how many thousands of hours we worked on this movie. Now, I knew that no one was ever going to be like, oh my God, Rob, that movie is so great. It was never going to be great. But we looked upon it as an opportunity to take something unwatchable and making it really mediocre. And as I've often told people, I was damn proud of that mediocrity. And I have no problem. I have no problem with that. And you know what's funny? There are now people that were kids when they saw Arcade, and I've been contacted by people that are like, I love that movie. So some people liked it, and I knew that we did our jobs and we did what we could and we made it the best we could be. But I have no problem with that. I have no problem with criticism. I had a program thrown at me in Dallas, Texas, when we took Free Enterprise and showed it at a film festival there. I mean, it was the USA Film Festival. We already got into the festival. It was sold out, so they moved it into a bigger venue, and I'm like, well, that's a win. And then at the end, a woman came up and threw a program and said, this is the most offensive movie I've ever seen. You've made a movie that condones rape. I've told this story before. And I'm like, it really got me thinking. And then there's a line of dialogue in Free Enterprise where the four characters are talking in a car, and Eric McCormack says, Rosemary's Baby. I love that movie. Rosemary Woodhouse raped by the devil. She had it coming after what the bitch put Woody through. That was the line of dialogue. Well, there's a lot going on in that line of dialogue. He's talking about a movie character, Rosemary Woodhouse, that was played by Mia Farrow. And he's making all these things, and he's making a bad, crass joke to his friends. And it was a bad joke, but I don't think, what was interesting, that viewer, that woman, clearly might have been a survivor of rape, and she might have known somebody who was, and it could have been very traumatic for her. Now, I would never take away from her how she felt about the movie or what she says. I would never tell her, you're wrong. Because in her reality, not only was she not wrong, she was incredibly upset by one line of dialogue in our almost 2-hour movie. Now, would I tell her? And it was a moment where I'm on stage and she throws a program and screams at us, and it was embarrassing. And I didn't know what she meant. And then, you know, you think about it and you're like, okay. I mean, they were talking about the devil coming up from hell and having his way with Mia Farrow. There's all this crazy stuff, but for that person, she was not incorrect. And it made me stop and think about, oh, okay, I had to understand. It was definitely criticism in a very public venue. That was a little bit embarrassing, to be honest. But in my mind, you know, if you think about all the human suffering that has happened all over the world since the dawn of humanity, look, every single group of people that's ever existed on this planet has had some horrible shit visited on them by other people. I mean, human beings are terrible, and what we have done to one another is, and the rest of the planet, animals, the environment, whatever, it's unconscionable. But knowing that, it's like understanding that the universe is indifferent to your suffering. If you know that and accept that, well, the idea is, allow me to once again read the quote from Stanley Kubrick. Let me get it. This is kind of my philosophy of life. And here is the quote from Stanley Kubrick. Oh, wait. And he said this in a 1968 Playboy interview is when he actually said this. Let me see if I can find the actual quote. Why is it I'm just getting glimpses of this quote. And I'm looking for it. I can't. I just want the quote, man. Oh, here, maybe it's here. I keep looking it up and it's taking me other places. All right. Here's the quote from Stanley Kubrick. The most terrifying fact about the universe is not that it is hostile, but it is that it is indifferent. But if we can come to terms with this indifference, then our existence as a species can have genuine meaning. Because however vast the darkness, we must supply our own light. Those, to my mind, Stanley Kubrick's my hero. Those are the words to live by, man. Those are the words to live by. You have to bring your own light. And I feel that that a lot of what goes on now, cancel culture and all this, all the people that are railing against all their perceived injustices and all these things. Yeah. There's a lot of injustice in the world. There is. But you're not going to get rid of it all. You can't legislate all injustice out of the universe. You can't squash anybody who says something offensive. You can't get rid of it all. It is a losing proposition. And the idea that people want to do that, well, they will never win. Because they're always going to find yet something else to be offended by. You know, the idea that we want to cancel a book or a movie or something that was made or written like 100 years ago, that you want to get rid of those things as if the thing from the past, I mean, how many things from the past are worth getting rid of? A lot of them. Because horrors were perpetrated against people. I mean, people were, I'm sure that there was more people over the course of human history probably had horrible things happen to them than not. But what are you going to do? You're going to go back and you're going to pretend none of it ever happened? To me, that's part of what cancel culture wants to do. We have to make sure that we get rid of every single horrible or objectionable thing that exists. Any bad thing someone can say. I mean, what I don't understand is if you want to change language and pretend like, oh, no, we have to take someone's situation into consideration. We don't want to offend them. You think that person doesn't know that whatever it is, like if somebody is suffering from, if they have some kind of mental or physical challenges, that they don't know that they have those mental or physical challenges, that by figuring out some way to be a little bit more sensitive about their condition, that it's going to somehow make the world better? No, what would make the world better is if those people didn't have those, that maybe we could find some medical technology to help them or something. But they know, and they've been dealing their whole life with the insensitivity of people, and they've come to grips with it. They understand. I mean, you live in a world where if somebody is coming across something that they've never come across before, they might not know what to deal. They won't know how to be polite. They won't know what to say to be nice. And the people that are afflicted know all of this. I mean, it doesn't matter what you want to say. It doesn't matter how you want to say it. Do we want to be nicer to people? Yes. Do we want to be more respectful to people? Yes. I heard so many people growing up say anti-Semitic shit in my presence because they didn't believe that I was Jewish. The thing is, they thought those things. I liked it because I was like, I get it now. Now there's an honesty going on that I would rather be aware of. So when I'm going out into the world, that I get it. I think that people are dishonest. I think a lot of, oh, you can't talk that way. Shouldn't say those things. I think half the people that are doing that, they still think it. You know, it's still on their minds. Just because they won't say it doesn't mean it's not there. And this idea, and I'd much rather have it in the open, you know, and more honest. If people don't like me, fucking say it. Say, Rob, you're a chump. I hate you. You're a bad businessman. Your movies suck. You're not nearly as talented as you think you are. You know what? I'd rather have people say that to me than, oh my God, you're so good. Because I already know that I'm doing my best. I already know that. And I know that anything I work on is going to be at least good to great. Maybe one day I'll make something I truly think is excellent. Maybe. But at least I'll give you something that isn't horrible. But, you know, if somebody wants to say, and I know that, and if you want to say to me, Rob, you suck, well, please, I'd rather have it be more than that. But I mean, I don't have a problem with that, because I'm like, it's interesting to me that you felt the need to tell me that. My question's always like, why did you feel the need to tell me that? What were you hoping to convey to me? Are you criticizing me because you hope I do better next time? It's not usually that. But I've always thought, like I will say that Star Trek Discovery sucks because I want it to be better. I'm not just saying Star Trek sucks to make myself feel superior. I really want it to get better. I want to love Star Trek again. And when I criticize Star Trek, I'm frustrated. I want it to be better. Make it better. Do better. And if somebody says to me, you suck, if I knew that they were really hoping that I would do better, that my work would do better, I would feel, okay, that's legit. I feel you, and I appreciate you saying that. But most people, when they say shit like that, they don't want you to, they're not looking for you to go, oh, I hope your work's better. No, they're trying to hurt you. And I know, I can tell the difference. And if somebody says something that is meant to hurt me, I'm like, well, I can't, I wish I could take more away from that. But my question is, why do you want to go out of your way to hurt me? Like, I'm just talking, I'm some asshole talking on the internet. What is my life? How does my life affect you at all? You can turn me off and never look at anything I've been involved with ever again. You know? But if you want me to get better and you tell me I suck, and here, Rob, I think here's how you suck in this way, this way, this way, this way, and this is what you should fix. Then I'm like, oh, okay, you. But anyway, I don't even know what I'm saying. What am I talking about? I have no idea. Phage lives. The Physicality channel said, take up low-key martial arts, Rob, like Wing Chun. I would love that. I would love martial arts. I'd love to do martial arts. Stepping Stone Media Group sends in a super chat and says, Rob, your converted garage to studio is one of the best looking set pieces on the web. Kick rocks, Sal. Well, I thank you for that. I'll make it better. Well, my next one will be better. Wolverine626 sends in a super chat and says, hey, RMB, have you seen the news about Sony creating their own version of ILM Stagecraft? I have not seen that news, but I would imagine everybody's going to be doing that. I mean, the problem was you couldn't get the screens, the screens, but now as they're being manufactured, I think it's going to be par for the course. It's going to be everyone's going to have a stage with that technology on it because they're going to have to. Which is great. David Hilton, I think it's Hilton, right? Sends in a super chat and says, if you could remake an anthology series, including The Twilight Zone, what would it be? Mine would be The Hitchhiker. That's a good one. Another would be Monsters. I love those first run syndication shows too. You know what? I don't know if I would remake one. I would want to do my own anthology, and I think that you know, there was I still have them around here somewhere. I would love to make a horror anthology show. Like Charles L. Grant published a bunch of books he edited of short stories called Shadows. There was Shadows, Nightmares, Terrors, Death. I have actually they're all over there. I have hundreds of horror anthologies. And I would love to do a horror anthology series. But I don't know if I'd remake. I'd want to do something new. Yeah. but it would be based on, I'd go and get all my favorite horror short stories and do those. Jason S. says, the latest way the baby left have come up with to silence speech is to falsely label any speech they don't like as inciting violence and then try and have your speech shut down and banned off the internet. Well, I'll tell you, Jason, I mean, if you're referring to what happened to Parler, I even joined Parler. I made a Parler account. I hadn't used it yet. I made a Parler account simply because I'm like, okay, I was interested in, look, I liked listening to people like William F. Buckley talk. I'll go back and watch William F. Buckley videos on YouTube. I like conservative thinkers. Thomas Sowell. I like Thomas Sowell. I really enjoy listening to him. I think he's got a lot of compelling, interesting views. When he shuffles off this mortal coil, we'll all be diminished. And I wouldn't mind. But the problem is, it's like even the amazing Lucas, who's a very conservative YouTube pundit, even he was saying that, look, Trump did incite people to come and do violence. And if that's happening, you can't allow that to happen. There's a difference between free speech and inciting people to violence. And also, you know what? Parler can be shut down because of the First Amendment guarantees that the government won't do it to you. The government's not going to come after you for what you've said, but private companies can. There's nothing that says that Amazon can't host, if they don't want to host Parler anymore. They're a company. It's their prerogative to do that. That's part of the American way. And the thing is, what I find fascinating is everybody that wants to burn down civilization, whether it's Islamic fundamentalists or if it's National Socialists or whatever, what are they going to replace it with? I mean, why is it we're seeing insurrectionists and all this? Why aren't we seeing somebody like buy a big plot of land and go like the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh and go build Rajneeshpuram in Oregon? Why don't we ever have that? Why is it that we're going to take over this, we're going to riot in downtown Portland? Why? Like, if you've got some utopian vision for the future, go build it. I'll come visit. Like, why do you have to fuck up everything else for everybody else? Why is your vision more important, or why are you going to come in our sections of the city, like what happened in what's going on in Portland? Why is what you want more important than the rest of the population who lives there? Why do you suddenly get to go out into the infrastructure and mess things up and get in riots and stop businesses from opening? Who are you to do that? If you really want to have effective change, why don't you lead by example rather than go and try and reduce what everybody else is doing? I don't know. So, the baby left. I don't believe in silencing speech. People can have bad ideas, and bad ideas should be brought into the light and examined, and that's how those bad ideas go away. The idea, I can't stand the fact that, like even me, when somebody says that you shouldn't talk to those people, I'm like, why? Why shouldn't I talk to those people? Isn't there something, if they have bad ideas, well, in talking to them, then I can learn that they're bad ideas. And if I should stay away, talking to them will make me understand why. But this idea that we should get rid of ideas that are bad simply because they're not going to hurt me, hearing these ideas is not going to hurt me. And it's going to make me well-informed enough that I'm going to understand what I'm dealing with. You don't want to ever I'll tell you something. When you make a movie, and again, I always come back to a film production company, do you ever want to not have certain information? No. You want as much information about whatever as you can get. As you can get. Oh, Roll Tide, did they win? Everyone, Roll Tide. That's all I've been hearing. And I can't help but think, whenever I hear that, I'm like, go Bama. The great people of this great state. Very aware, sir. Depends. I mean, Roll Tide, Claudius. Keaton Toothman says, glad you enjoyed our films. Wasn't sure if you'd love the humor, but knew you'd love the homage work. Can't wait to hear more of your opinions on them. Well, I can't give you more of my opinions on them yet. 200 Watt Studio says, congrats on Tango. Saw Katrina posted about it on Facebook. Oh, she did? That's It's Karina, no T in her name though. Karina Smirnoff. That's really great. So that's awesome. Devin Hilton says also notable. Also the notable placed in free enterprise bars, restaurants, bookstores still around are that no. As a matter of fact, we used to. Okay, so what David Hilton is asking is, are the places that are in free enterprise still around? The Iliad bookstore is, but it moved. Most of the places, I am sorry to say, most of the places that are in free enterprise are gone. And we used to joke about that. I never thought Jerry's Deli would be gone. Jerry's Deli's gone. All the places I used to hang out, all of my favorite places. The bar that inspired Free Enterprise, Lola's, Lauren was smart. She wouldn't let us shoot there. Gone. Everything's gone. Cartoonsville, gone. The Garden of Eden, the big club they're in, gone. Everything is gone. But, yeah, it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. Jason S. goes on and says, what are you calling incitement to violence? Trump never did that. Twitter banned Trump because Trump tweeted that he wouldn't be going to the inauguration, and Twitter falsely claimed that statement was inciting violence. Post a couple of Trump... Okay, here's the thing, man. Jason, you know as well as I do, if you watched, say, Trump's pre-recorded message on the day of those riots, Trump has been fomenting this kind of thing. You can't say, like, if you're looking for a phrase where Trump says, I expect all of you to run to the Capitol and commit acts of violence. Okay, you have to infer meaning by what people say. Like, let's see. Here we go. Since you asked, Trump's pre-recorded message. Let's see if I can find that video. COVID diagnosis. Remarks. Okay. Let's see. What does he say? There's a million different videos. The pre-recorded message he put out on the same day of the. You can't not listen to that and say, oh, he's not. I mean, look, you also have to be honest about what is going on. When people say things, what they mean. You have to infer meaning from them. Sure, he might not have said the actual words, I am trying to incite violence, but you have to you have to be realistic about what people are saying. I mean, what's really being said. Let's see. And Twitter did not ban Trump because he tweeted he wouldn't be going to the inauguration. President Trump has been actively lying on Twitter for 2 months since the election. He has been spouting falsehoods. The president of the United States keeps talking about election tampering. Well, where's the evidence? I said to you the other day, where is the evidence? Show us. Take the ballot. Show us. The states, each state has to certify its own election. And by Trump saying this, he's basically saying that, I mean, I only wish we lived in a world, a country where all of the states could collude in a coordinated fashion and make something like Biden getting elected actually occur. I would love that. I don't think we're like the Keystone Cops in this country. And I liked Keystone Cops. I did. I like those. But the idea that you could coordinate that, multiple states, they've all got different things on the ballots. It's amazing to me that everybody who complained about election tampering, when they're all on the same ballot together, they would never complain about, well, their wins. It was only ever about the presidency. Well, what about all the other things that were on the ballot? What about all the Republicans that won their races? No one's complaining about those ballots being invalid. No one ever said all of these things. It was only the presidential race. Isn't that weird? I don't know. Praxium says, has anyone put 2 and 2 together and figured out the Grace Randolph, Pedro Pascal is a diva leak was orchestrated by the Kennedy faction? See, again, here's the thing. Ask yourself, Okay? When you're working in Hollywood, why would it's hard to explain unless you work in Hollywood how things work like that. You have to understand, in the hallowed halls of Hollywood, that people are not thinking. We as fans think differently than the people that are working within the industry. It's different. So the idea, as far as Kathleen Kennedy is concerned, what she's doing is managing all of Star Wars. She's the president of Lucasfilm. She's got a million things to worry about, not just the movies. She's got Lucasfilm as other interests, ILM. There's all kinds of things that are all underneath the Lucasfilm banner. Star Wars, which is their primary concern when they're making something, when she has something that's working, she's not looking to sabotage it. She's like, great, The Mandalorian's doing really well. The subscriptions are going up at Disney Plus. For her, that's an epic win. I mean, it's a win. She's not thinking along the lines of us. She doesn't want to jeopardize The Mandalorian, nor does anyone else want her to at that level. This idea that there are factions within Disney, well, that could very well be true. There's always people jockeying for power and positions, but I don't believe. See, and like what John says on the show, like John Campy and I go back and forth. I don't think that Jon Favreau wants to run Lucasfilm. I think Jon Favreau's a filmmaker and a writer. He's a writer, director, and producer, and that's what he wants to do. And as long as people don't get in the way, he's sitting pretty because it's the creators that are having all the fun. Nobody wants to be an administrator. Everybody who's an administrator, every single executive or suit or manager or agent that I've ever met really wants to be a creative. I mean, there are some people that want to be managers. That's true. But everybody wants to be a goddamn creative. Trust me. Everybody wants to weigh in. Everybody wants to, give their 2 cents in. They want to be considered the prime mover behind anything. It's the way, it's like that, man. It's a weird thing. I do not, and a lot of people I know that I really like report on this stuff. I think that the real thing is everybody wants to make something successful. Jon Favreau is a writer-director. He is a filmmaker. There are few other people at Lucasfilm. Kathleen Kennedy is a producer that has produced a lot of great movies. Kathleen Kennedy produced The Mandalorian. She said to Favreau, hey, you and Filoni should get together. Why? Because she knew if they got together, they'd probably create something great. And they did. That was because of Kathleen Kennedy. Now, do you think that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau want to take over Star Wars? No, because they already have. The way they do it is by making their show. And their show is really successful and everyone loves it. And now what do they have? They have 3 more shows. So now they have 4 shows. So what they're doing is they're doing the best of what they got. 4 shows that they're making with all interconnectedness, and it's going to be this big tapestry of where Star Wars is right now that the world will embrace. They're not in a better position. Nobody is in a better position than they are. They're going to get paid what they want, and they're going to be having the best time of their lives, doing exactly what they want to be doing. They don't want. Do you think Jon Favreau wants to field phone calls about, well, we want to build this new Star Wars land in whatever theme park? I'm willing to bet you that while he might think that's more interesting, he's going to make 4 Star Wars shows at once. I'm telling you, people that are filmmakers are not having a better time in the world than if they're able to do that. And if Favreau, he already loves working within these great. Like, look, man, if somebody said, Rob, you can work for the rest of your life, but you can only work on Star Trek, I'd be like, fuck yeah, let's go. I would do that. I never once in my life would be, well, yeah, are there original projects I wanted to make? Sure. But really, my lifelong love has been Star Trek. Is it a problem if that's all I'm going to do for the rest of my life? No. And I don't think that Jon Favreau, he's done enough in his life to prove that he's got his own oeuvre of work, Zathura or Swingers or Maid or whatever. Chef is he's done all this stuff, but he's also made Avengers. You know, he made the Avengers by making Iron Man. I mean, it's like he's done all this stuff, and if that's all he's going to do for the rest of his life, I'll bet he's a happy camper because he's going to have a lot of fun until it's not, and then he'll go do something else. Let's see. Let's go back here. Commander Claudius as Commander Claudius sends in one of three. Ridiculousness. If you look hard enough at any job, position, system, religion, and person, it can be seen as ridiculous. The question isn't always censorship, it's also promotion. Some people just want to watch the world burn. I agree. That's why they created a photo of Joe Biden with a grand wizard. Disagreeing on policy is one thing, and disagreeing on fact is another. I agree with you 100%. There are people like Saul and the Joker who are either unwittingly or purposefully disseminating false information. Hey, kid, you want to make candy? Just mix bleach and rubbing alcohol. Hey, it's free speech. I agree with you. I think living in a civil society, we have an obligation to one another. That's part of the social contract, and I don't understand. Look, I think the real problem that we have today is there's a lot of unhappy people. For whatever reason, they're unhappy in their lives. They didn't realize their dreams. And I think that, unfortunately, America has been on this track for a long time. You know what we need to do? I've said national security, the beginnings of national security in America should be based on two things: intelligence and healthcare. We need a smart, knowledgeable, healthy population in order to move forward. And that means that if you have economically depressed areas or minority areas of this country that aren't getting the same kind of education that other people are getting, then put more money into those places. Let's lift people up. And when I was going to school, man, there was a lot of opportunity. You went to school. I went to public school, but it was a very wealthy public school district because they always passed the levies because it was all families that lived there. And our schools had all kinds of activities. So you as a kid growing up, there was a lot of opportunity to explore. You know, what did you want to do? Whether it was music, sports, the arts, whatever. There was always something you could go find out that you wanted to do for its own sake. Not for any other reason than, boy, I really enjoy this for its own sake. And you're right, Claudius. Some people just want to watch the world burn. The asshole of Claudius says, I can confirm he shit himself when he saw how good Tenet was, and then re-shit himself when he realized other people didn't like it and could bitch about it while ignoring his likely neglected, angry wife and kids. You're probably wait, who are you saying that to? Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. There are people like Saul and the Joker just mixing bleach and rubbing. I see what you're saying. Back here, let me go back to a liberal with green hair sends in a 666 tip. I sent you a 666 tip this past weekend mentioning the voting irregularities in Georgia. You never got the tip. Maybe Satan, but also maybe big tech has an agenda. If the election was rigged and the media covered it up, how would you feel? Okay, how was the election rigged? Who rigged it? Why did they rig it? And let me ask you this. What makes you think that the agenda that big tech has favors Joe Biden over Donald Trump? What's the difference? I mean, where are we at? Like, what's going on? I mean, that's the voting irregularities. What irregularities? How were they irregular? How do we even know that they were irregular? Who reported those irregularities? How do they figure out that there were irregularities? I mean, that's all I would ask. This stuff is like, okay, you say there are voting irregularities. I'll buy that. What are they? Here's a list of voting irregularities. How could these how could these have happened? Well, here's the explanation. You just run it down, and figure it out. If there are voting irregularities, what are they? Okay, I would buy that. There are voting irregularities. Please tell me, where's the list? What are they? Where's that list? Like, as a matter of fact, I'll Google voting irregularities in Georgia. Oops. In Georgia. Okay. Georgia's Senate. Here's the first thing that pops up. Georgia's Senate elections elicit claims of pervasive. Let me click on this. Georgia's Senate irregularities. This comes from Wabi, where ATL is at Atlanta, meets NPR. Georgia's Senate irregularities elicit claims of pervasive irregularities. Pardon me. Georgia's Senate elections elicit claims of pervasive irregularities, but no proof. With national attention on Georgia for the Senate runoffs, there has been a new round of claims that Georgia's election system is wrought with fraud. Many of those claims have come from President Donald Trump. The accusations continue to be made without proof, and despite reassurances from the Secretary of State's office. At a press conference on Tuesday, state elections official Gabriel Sterling said that of the 2,648 polling places across the state, less than 0.2% of touchscreens and 0.01 of poll pads experienced malfunctions throughout the day. We've seen nothing that seems widespread, nothing that seems real in any way, shape, or form, quite honestly, Sterling said about fraud and voting irregularities. He specifically refuted claims from the president that thousands of unexpected ballots were showing up out of nowhere. Okay, that's all I'll read. Thousands of unexpected ballots were showing up out of nowhere. This seems to me, in my mind, something that's very easy to prove. Donald Trump, who's made the assertion, the president has said, thousands of unexpected ballots. The question that I would ask then is, okay, where are those thousands of unexpected ballots? Let's look at them and find out where they're showing up. Where are those ballots, President Trump? You're the goddamn president. If you're the president of the United States, you could say, and you say, there are thousands of unexpected ballots. Show us the ballots. This is logic 101. If there are unexpected ballots, show them to us. Like when you're making a movie, you can't work that way. Like you're making a film, you have a certain amount of money that you can spend every day. And you have to do a million different things and they all have to be true. So you have to have like insurance. You have to have extras. And when you have extras, you have to have places for them to go to the bathroom. And you have to have enough meals to go around. Like if you have 1,000 people working on a film and you have a caterer and your caterer only has 900 meals, well, that's you can look at that and go, you only have 900 meals. That's a problem. We have 100 more people to feed. Let's alleviate this problem. On a movie set, that shit is taken care of. Nobody can make false claims on a movie set because you're spending money every single day and you have to have everything squared away. So, if the president says there are thousands of irregular ballots, that must mean there are thousands of irregular ballots. Where are they? Let's look at them and see. And all of these conspiracy theories, there's pedophiles in a pizza parlor. There's reptilian aliens that are secretly amongst us. Well, if you know that there are, why don't we walk up to whatever person and find out? Are they a reptilian? Bring an X-ray machine. All of these claims, and everyone's like, ooh, they're like, it drives me berserk. And so anyway, but big tech, you know what big tech's agenda is? Making money. Do you think that they want everybody to be a mindless drone? I mean, they really don't. They really don't. They want to data mine everything there is to know about you so they can make money. At the end of the day, that's all anybody really wants is money. Look, I wish that there was some satanic agenda behind it all where, you know what? Satan is here and he wants to steal all of our eternal souls. Well, even that I would understand. Like, oh, I get that. I understand. You know, but I mean, what's big tech going to do when they don't they already run the world? I mean, what is big tech looking to do? Well, then what? You know, then when they achieve their goal, then what are they going to do? Is the status quo, if big tech takes over the world and dominates all of us, let's say it happened tomorrow, well, then what? Are they going to pay for the plumbing in the public school? What are they going to? What are we all going to do? Are we just going to be hooked up to the Matrix and like be fed a derivation of applesauce for the rest of our lives? I mean, if there is something really going on, if there's something that's really get the evidence. Act on it. Swag Prop says, hi, Rob. On Twitter, when someone referred to a POC command character in Lower Decks, and you replied, it doesn't count since animation is not real. Just curious what your position you consider Star Trek the Animated Series and Star Trek canon. Well, there's Cal, there was an ongoing joke in our Starship Smackdown panel that we were doing for 18 years. Well, actually, we would have done it for the 18th year at Comic-Con this year in 2020. But there was a rule that in Starship Smackdown, no starships that were animated could be in the Starship Smackdown because animated starships aren't real. It was an ongoing joke. So I've always said that the animation isn't real. I consider the animated Star Trek series canonical. I mean, obviously, I in my own mind, I've always thought it was canonical because everybody involved in Star Trek made it. So to me, it was canonical. I also understood that it had to be presented in the format that was acceptable on Saturday morning television. So I understood that. But a lot of the same writers wrote it. You know, Margaret Arman, who wrote The Paradise Syndrome, writes an animated series episode. I'm like, oh, okay, that's real Star Trek. It didn't bother me that the animation was limited or that it was directed toward kids because the animated series was playing it straight. Lower Decks is a send-up of Star Trek tropes. To me, it is a workplace comedy, but it's making fun of Star Trek. I don't believe they say, well, yeah, Lower Decks is canonical. I don't believe it in that same context because it's not. It's something else. It's not Star Trek. It is a comedy or a parody or workplace version of Star Trek, but it isn't real Star Trek. They're not trying, even though that, yeah, well, there's kind of Star Trek stories within that paradigm. Yeah, you could say that, but I don't feel that it is. Commander Claudius says, asshole of Claudius. That wasn't me. Well, Commander Claudius, somebody said that. I don't know if the asshole of Claudius is talking about me. I mean, I already know Tenet's a beautifully made film. I just don't, the premise didn't work for me. S. Beam sends in a super chat. Well, thank you, S. Beam. I appreciate that. Jason S. says, every election cycle, when Democrats lose, they claim it was stolen via voter suppression without proof, or they claim Russia hacked it with Trump's help. Also, well, actually, not every election cycle. There's only really been two with Trump being elected. Also offering no proof. There's never been any proof on the Dem claims of voter suppression. Well, how about gerrymandering? I mean, voter suppression. Let's look that up. Republicans. Let's see. Republican gerrymandering. All right. So the Guardian in the UK wrote an article. This article came out. I don't know what the as Biden won the presidency, Republicans cemented their grip on power for the next decade. Democrats lost big in state elections, which could cost them when new political maps are drawn. While the world focused on the election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden in November, some of the most consequential contests were in state legislative races between candidates many never heard of. State lawmakers have the authority to redraw electoral districts in most U.S. states every 10 years. In 2010, Republicans undertook an unprecedented effort called Project Red Map to win control of state legislatures across the country and drew congressional and state legislative districts that gave them a significant advantage for the next decade. In 2020, Democrats sought to avoid a repeat of 2010 and poured millions of dollars and other resources into winning key races. It did not go well. Democrats failed to flip any of the legislative chambers they targeted, and Republicans came out of election night in nearly the best possible position for drawing districts, according to an analysis by 538, and will have the opportunity to draw 188 congressional seats, 43% of the House of Representatives, and Democrats will have a chance to draw at most just 73 seats. Republicans will probably also be able to draw districts that will make it more difficult for Democrats to hold their majority in the U.S. House in 2022. It was really bad. It was devastating to the project of building long-term power, said Amanda Littman, the co-founder and executive director of Run for Something, a group focused on local races. So, okay, what would you say to that? What would you say to that? Every election cycle when Democrats lose, they claim it was stolen via voter suppression. How do you feel about Republicans redrawing congressional districts to favor them over Democrats? I mean, they're doing it. They've been talking about gerrymandering for decades, and they do that. I mean, I would say get rid of all of that. Get rid of I use the word gerrymandering in free enterprise. I thought gerrymandering was a great word and a ridiculous thing to do. The idea that you can just redraw congressional districts for elections, that seems a little strange, doesn't it? I mean, I understand why, but is that voter suppression? I don't know if it's exactly suppression, but, you know. Probably Claudius says, me, women. That's pretty funny. Me. But anyway, I mean, Mr. Tickletrunk says the Star Wars charity number is now almost 39,000. Amazing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has devolved into a total political discussion. But I would just say that I wish politics was run like Hollywood productions were run. Because no one has any time for bullshit. There's no time for bullshit. You have to know exactly what's going on. You have to balance your budget on a daily basis. And if you don't, you're in trouble. That's why I like working on movies. The world is a simple place. Here's what you need. Here's how much money you have. Can you get your manpower and your equipment where you need it to be for this amount of money and make your day? And I wish we could run this country the way they run the best run Hollywood productions. Probably the way Kathleen Kennedy ran her Hollywood productions. And the way Gail Ann Hurd would run her Hollywood productions. On time, on budget. Anyway, interesting chat. I want to thank all of you for being here. I mean, it started out talking about movies. Now we're talking about all of this political stuff. But my whole thing is, man, if there's a conspiracy, if there is voter suppression, if there are thousands of ballots that came from somewhere, as President Trump said, where are the ballots? He knows they are. If he knows, somebody told him that, and he's the president. If he can't go, listen, man, I'm the president of the United States. I was told by this person, just run it down. He's the president. This is the United States. You can get anything you want if you're president of the United States. You have all of this at your disposal. So the question that I have is, why is the president saying these things and fomenting a distrust of our election by making up shit? I mean, if it's real, he's the president. If there is weird number of ballots that are not right, go get them. You can do it. You've got the people. You can make it happen like that. You're the most powerful man on the planet Earth. If there is bad ballots, thousands of them, like you say, get them. Show them to the American people. Go, here are the ballots. Here's what I said. Bad ballots. There aren't any. There aren't any. And if there were, if they were, well, then where is this great conspiracy, and why can't, if they can steal an election, you'd think that they would do something even bigger, because once they steal an election, then what? They still have to deal with all the assholes. Kamala Harris now can cast one extra vote. I mean, it's not like they've brought themselves some amazing, beautiful reality where everyone's going to be happy all the time. I mean, you have to ask yourself, these conspiracies that everybody, whether it's QAnon or whatever, I mean, again, it just drives me nuts. Just go back to ask questions. If this is the case, what can we do to fix it? And show me the problem, and let's fix it. Evan Newman says, the culture of victimization seems to be the biggest problem we face, and it's on all sides. I agree with that. From stop the steal on the right to fear of microaggressions on the left. It's a cultural problem the entire country needs to grapple with and fix now. I agree with that. The culture, when did we all become a bunch of pussies? I know, oops, someone's, you shouldn't use the word pussies anymore. That's, okay. How about, when did we become so weak? When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Why don't we get up and fix it? You know, if you're a victim, get up there and stand up and speak for your rights or whatever. You know, if you get hit, get up. I mean, I don't. The culture of everyone's victimized. It's weird. 200 Watt Studio says, I missed your super. I did. Did I miss your super chat? I saw that you sent one in. Oh. 200 Watt Studio says, I met Richard Hurd from V, the miniseries, Deep Space Nine, etc. at Jerry's Deli for lunch years ago after I bought one of his paintings. Wow, great memory. How cool is that? You met Richard Hurd. I would love to have met Richard Hurd. I never met him. I always liked him. Richard Hurd's great. And as one of the higher-ups of the Visitors, I always love that guy. So anyway, I'm going to jump off this chat. We are not going to have time tonight to do Dawn of the Dead. We'll have to postpone whining about movies until tomorrow. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah, we're going to do that. I'm going to bring this chat to an end because I don't even know what I'm saying. But, that's all I would say. If somebody makes a claim, show me. It's easy. I mean, that's the first rule of evidentiary-based. It's like science. Okay, here's the claim. Let's test it. See if that works out. If it works out, that hypothesis, then we can move forward. If you're making a claim, prove the claim. And if anybody, it doesn't matter. If I made a claim, if I came out and said, you know what? You know what I just heard? I just heard that George Lucas is clandestinely making 3 new Star Wars movies for Disney that haven't been announced yet. That's provable. You could prove that because he's not doing it alone. You'd have to be like, okay, well, you'd ask yourself, if that's the case, are there scripts that are written? Are they being broken down? There's all these other people that would have to work on this. If there really is voter suppression, and if there'd have to be, well, somebody would have had to fill out all those ballots. Well, who are they? You could probably find them. They'd have to be trucked around from place to place. You could probably find those people. Like the idea of a conspiracy, there's all these people that would have to perpetrate the conspiracy. And so where are they? Where do they go? You could probably track their movements, somehow. And that's just ask questions. If somebody says that an election is stolen, you're like, okay, well, how'd they do it? This is the United States. It's not like, look, people are greedy. All you have to do is go, you know what I'd love to see? If there is voter suppression, if there's real voter suppression, somebody should say, here's $1 million. If you can bring me one bit of evidence, Donald Trump should do it. I want evidence of voter suppression. I'm willing to pay $5 million for anybody that brings me definitive proof of voter suppression. Fuck, man, somebody will want that $5 million. They will. They'll come in and get it. Anyway, I'm going to finish this chat that's off the rails. I'm out of my league. Half of what I said here is gobbledygook. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want to thank my entire staff. Not that they're our staff, but they are our staff. I want to thank Mike Bodden. I want to thank the Richard. I want to thank Joshua Levesque. I want to thank Robert Pariso. I said Levesque. I said Joshua Levesque. It's Levesque. It's Joshua Levesque. I just want to say that. Hey, Gregory Smith is here. All of my moderating staff is fantastic. Thank you all for listening to me. You must have had fun today. Anyway, I'm getting off this channel now. I'm a little giddy, and I really haven't had any lunch. And no, according to Saul, I haven't had any alcohol, and I've been drinking the same can of Diet Coke all day. So anyway, I'm a little loopy. So there you go. And I'm glad to hear that the Star Wars charity that we started I can't believe $39,000 people on YouTube. If you were a part of that, thank everybody who was involved, and I want to thank Star Wars Theory one more time. So, no whining about movies tonight. I can't even speak anymore anyway. So we'll do that tomorrow. We're pushing whining about movies to tomorrow. It is George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. That is correct. Dawn of the Dead. So, yeah. Anyway. There we go. And on that note, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. And with that, I'm going to end this chat. And I ask you, if somebody makes a claim, all you have to do is say, if that's correct, show me the evidence of that. Show me where it's at. It's easy. There you go. So thanks very much, everybody, and have a better day.